Above a post-apocalyptic wasteland is a city of towers, corrupted to its core. 5 people cast down from their homes now rise to defeat an ancient evil and undo a contract that would doom them all. This is MissedByOne and Pathfinder 2nd Edition campaign called Starfall.
MissedByOne, I will be your DM for the day, Tristan Burdick. You can call me Tris. Pronouns are they, them. And I'll introduce you to my cast members and who they are playing for the day. The campaign is called Starfall, and it is Pathfinder 2nd Edition. First off.
Hi, my name is Alex, or Alexander. Some of you may know me as Rodox. I'm part of this mess, and I'll be playing Frey.
Fair enough. I'm Emily, and I'm playing the alchemist, Dr. Aida Solis.
I'm Noel. I will be playing the human sorcerer.
Live from Stock.
I'm Pedro. Pronouns are he, they, and I will be playing the old halfling rogue, Hannegan Erlog.
Right, my name is Edward, and I will be playing the dwarven beastkin druid named Ibor.
Live from Stockholm, Sweden. This is MissedByOne.
Righty. Whew. So, we begin with a little introduction of the setting. Underneath of the sky-shattered skies, with the sun shut. I'm a little nervous.
Got it.
Beneath the constant twilight haze of the shattered eclipse that dominates the western sky, painting the world in its permanent glow, is a wasteland of red sand, scorched by hellfire and corrupted by abyssal blood for as far as the eye can see, until one reaches what is left of the mountains known as the spine of the world that shapes the horizon. Swirling a cup of wine within his hand, Idrin looks down upon the city below him, the city that is named after him, a mageopolis, a mageocracy named Idrenados. Breathtaking to view. A city made between the towers of Magi over the course of 300 years. An intricate web of platforms, bridges, buildings, and more. Casting his gaze around, he can see the 5 major towers that make up his highest council. The great tree, known as the Alimentorum, a incredibly massive, great, ancient tree that now houses an entire district of food-based production and druids, a host of many taverns, bars, bards, bard colleges, and more. He continues and sees the impressive workshops of the spires of Iter, pumping out their azure steam that continuously pumps through their machines to power every single device of artifice that they have created. The floating architecture of the Eidafeach, impossible to imagine most of the time, but the floating structures of the Eidafeach are simply a wonder of architects and the pinnacle of construction. Most things do not make sense, but yet they float. Gravity wells of great power keep many buildings afloat, and as people go to these buildings, they lower and connect to the platforms beneath. And then there is the imposing maze of the Praesidium. And in a terrifyingly bleak maze of pure granite transmuted from a singular material in order to maintain a solid structure. There are doors, wards, bard colleges, and more. Casting his gaze around, he can see the 5 major towers that make up his highest council. The great tree, known as the Alimentorum, a incredibly massive, great, ancient tree that now houses an entire district of food-based production and druids, a host of many taverns, bars, colleges, and more. a place that is the pinnacle of protective magic within Idrenados. And last but not least is the gold-bound marble of the TTRPG, the pinnacle of offensive and destructive magic, of both arcane, primal, and, in some cases, occult origin. And as he looks and gazes upon this impressive tower that is connected to the rest of the city, the view shifts and our camera pans across the city. It pans to a balcony upon the TTRPG that overlooks the sky-shattered eclipse and the rest of the wasteland beyond. In a relatively shaded spot to protect oneself from the overwhelming, well, gloom of the shattered sky, are two individuals of powerful stature here in the city. I would like you, Alex, to describe to me what exactly does Frey look like as he stands across one of the 5 most powerful beings of the city of mages, with a glass of wine in your hand, celebrating a recent political victory?
Well, he's standing with, he is a ashborn with white feathers, yellow beak, and he's standing in somewhat of a ceremonial garb. It may have pieces of armor and metal on it, but they are mostly decorative. Yeah.
All right. Mm-hmm. And beside you is a man who stands with a very firm, authoritative posture, but he is friendly with you. He isn't trying to impose upon you. This is simply the way he is. You are used to him constantly being prim and proper and powerful. He stands aside you and goes, "Frey, my friend, you have aided us greatly in implementing non-lethal magic into the ranks of the Mage's Guard. And with your aid and field research, I've been able to put my bill on the floor. And now we have all but one of 5 votes to be able to fully roll out an entire array of non-lethal magic in new spellbooks for all of the Mage's Guard. I believe that this is the way forward and the way to perhaps save more people." The man before you is an elf, a very odd-looking one. He is very old, but he doesn't show it very well on his body. His skin is of pure marble, and where one would expect to see the blue veins beneath his skin, you instead see cracks that run along his entire form, glittering with gemstones. He is an Oread, a very old one, and he's also one of the most powerful evocation wizards in the city. But the last mission you did was probably your best. I did not realize that, combined with non-lethal weaponry, that Ray of Admonishing at such a high power would definitely make short work of thugs and whatnot without killing them. How do you feel, Frey?
The honor was not entirely mine. We have been working together for this, and I think all should be celebrated.
Quite right, quite right. Though, of course, you know that Malar is less than keen on our shift of focus, despite our tower being known for its evocational skills and magic. She seems to be displeased, but that is fine. That is fine. We simply take what victories we can. And you've earned me a great one. Now, between you and I believe that offensive magic should likely be stripped from everyone in the city. This would be a very difficult task. But I believe that switching out contrabanding, perhaps a better term, spells that could cause lethal amounts of damage should be regulated. Of course, Nidium, the head of the Praesidium, definitely agrees with me. There are a few others who do not. And I believe that your next mission, arresting the Chancellor of one of the Obliques, would probably be your best move. It would solve a problem in our districts, and it would quell a thorn in my side. Of course, I have found rumors of devil summoning, and so perhaps we should launch a formal investigation.
I promise you, if devil summoning is indeed, as you say it is, involved, we will find them and we will put an end to it.
As expected, of the Knight Captain of the Mage's Guard. And before he can continue, you stand on this balcony that overlooks the wasteland before you, a sight that you've grown up with. You are used to this. The sky is no different to you than to anyone, but every time he looks at it, he seems sorrowful and mournful. He seems distracted somewhat by it. But before he can continue, a knock on the door draws both of your attention. Drathis is Ibor, the man who you have been talking to. He stays where he is, seemingly as if expecting you to handle the door. What would you like to do?
I slowly walk up to the door, eyes on Drathis, and I open it.
There is a servant, a fairly typical man in butler's attire, who bows deeply to you and goes, my lords, my lord. And he bows even deeper to Drathis and goes, Myla requests your presence, Drathis, Lord Drathis, and your presence is required by your subordinate in the parlor. He did not say why, but Canthar was very worried about something. I don't mean to cut your celebration short. Drathis simply waves a hand, dismissively.
I turn to Drathis and I say, some simple matter he has muddled up again, I'm sure. And I proceed to go and meet him.
Yeah. So you leave, and Drathis also leaves shortly after, and heads into the greater hall and walks through the... he sort of disappears up through a set of stairs that seem to go on. And the interior of this place is gaudy at best. It kind of hurts your eyes a little bit by the sheer amount of like gold runic or gold-filled runes that cover every tile and inch of this place, pretty much. There is intricate runecraft all over the place, and they all serve various functions. for a man of your stature, would immediately recognize most abjurational ones. There's some that straight up banish extraplanar beings of a certain power. You would know these things. You are the Knight Captain of the Mage's God. And as you walk through and you leave into the parlor room, you notice that the parlor room is empty. Canthar is not there. And there's a slight sign of a little bit of tampering, like something almost knocked over and that was put back in place. But you've got a keen eye for these things. And it's just not quite right. What would you like to do in this moment?
Oh, I'll have a look around the room, see what may be out of place or moved.
Okay. We'll have you do the first roll of the session. I would like an investigation check at plus 17.
Right, and that's a d20, yeah?
Yeah.
8.
Plus 17, not your
17.
not your usual.
Right, so yeah. High.
What did you roll total?
25, right?
25, yeah.
Okay, 25. So, at your level, unfortunately that isn't quite as high as you might think, but it is still enough. You notice that there are signs of heavy, like, armored boots that have scraped through here before. And, of course, you having come to Drathis to celebrate, you are not currently armored. You obviously trust Drathis enough. You kept your weapon of office, your blade, and your tome, of course. You are the Knight Captain. And you keep the captain's tome, which is the tome that has been passed down from Cassandra to you, and from whoever trained her to her. But there are signs of armored boots having marched through here. There's like a slight bit of scuffness on the rug. There is a slight scrape mark on the tiniest bit of unruined, unworded marble, like a slight chip. And this tells you immediately that there's been something that moved through here. And your danger senses sort of like tingle. You are... A pit begins to form in your stomach of worry. What would you like to do from here? Do you want to...
Well, clearly, if something is wrong, I should rush to Drathis. Make
Rush
sure
to
nothing is mischievous there.
Okay. So, you, with fear in your stomach and in your heart, you sort of look around, you notice something off, and you think, Drathis. Something might go wrong. And you rush to go and find him. You take off through the various halls, and you think you know where he went. You're not sure. But you just have a feeling, because Mylar called for him, he might be somewhere closer to the office. Her office, likely. My bad. And as you rush through and you slam open the door, you notice Drathis is hunched with his head on Malar's shoulder. Malar is Drathis' wife, the technically second in command and or secondary head of the TTRPG. She too is an elven creature, but is of Ifrit descent. Dark, literal obsidian skin made of stone. And just like Drathis with the cracks of veins through the body, hers is of magma. The crown of her skull is shaped like a crown and is raised like a volcano, with magma-like hair flowing through one side. And it doesn't seem to emit enough heat to burn things around her, but it is still very warm, you know from experience. And do not.
I'm sorry.
I'm trying to be serious. It's fine. I was waiting for the first breakdown of the session.
Not from experience.
Not from experience. She is. You have had to physically interact with her before, and she is warm to the touch. Slightly scalding. Do not. Can't believe we're already here, guys. Anyway, you go and meet. You see how Drathis' head is upon her shoulder. It almost, at a glance, looks like she's hugging her, or hugging him, or embracing him, perhaps. And as you burst through, what do you say? Or what is your first reaction to the fact that you know that there's danger nearby? Something's off.
Well, that's exactly what I tell them. I go, my liege, something is off about this situation. And I approach them.
And as you do, what comes into your peripheral as you step in, because you step into the office, yeah?
Mm.
In your peripheral vision, what you see is there's a being that you've only seen a handful of times, or a type of being that you've only seen a handful of times. There's no check required because it's incredibly obvious. A devil in the corner of your eyes, standing. You don't have time to really identify what type of devil it is, as it is in the middle of being conflagrated and turning into ash. As Mylar turns and Drathis slides off of her blade and hits the ground with a dull thud. And she holds a longsword in one hand and looks at you and goes, the second part of the puzzle. Frey, how kind of you to join us. What do you do?
I step back in horror to seeing my friend fall to the floor, and I feel something strange, something welling up inside me. And I pull my sword. And I scream, "You traitor!" And I attack her.
And you rush through the doorway in your rage. Even to you, this doesn't feel like a natural source of anger. You're not usually quick to anger, but something in your blood boils when you see her. Her eyes flash a strange color that is unnatural to her, Ifrit's sort of flame-like eyes, the little gems that serve as irises that swirl with fire. As you charge and rush her, your blade pierces through her and mortally wounds her. You feel. But in the last second, as your blade hits, it shatters something. There's something that breaks. You hear a glass shattering as your blade strikes. And the moment your blade is wrested through her gut and appears through the other side of her torso, you hear the clattering of boots that open from a side door to this room, the other door, and from behind you, as the room is surrounded. A reptilian hiss tips you off. Frey. What are you doing? As your subordinate, your second-hand man, Kianthar, a lizard folk of blue scales, looks at you in horror and shock. As your blade is wrenched through Mylar, and Drathis is dead on the ground beside her. And the room smells potently of sulfur and brimstone. Mylar looks at you, meets your eyes, and smiles as she uses your form to block her ability to cast a spell. You do feel as if it would be difficult for you to do so, due to whatever is affecting your current mental state. As you feel your blood rushing and you grow, like the situation itself, you don't have time. This all happens in seconds. You feel angrier and angrier. Do you want to try and stop her from casting the spell?
I will not. Some kind of shock, and after the feeling of anger has washed off of me, I need to regain myself for a second.
All right. I assume that you probably... She casts her spell, and she uses your form to block visual of that. As she faints and falls to the ground with a thud. Blood pooling from her, and she is seemingly dead. And that is the last thing you see before a spell that you have so painstakingly playtested for Drathis in the Magus Guard. You are struck simultaneously by around 8 or 7 applications of the spell, and it's almost not enough to bring you down. But Ganthar himself, your loyal subordinate, your right-hand man, the man you were training to take your position at some point in time, looks at you, a sly grin on his face, as he brings a bludgeon down upon you, and your world goes dark.
Betrayal.
Dun dun dun.
It's almost like
Bro.
taken from
The beginning of this will be very cinematic. Forgive
Don't
me.
trust elves, I see.
Just don't trust,
Never trust the elves.
never trust the elves.
MissedByOne. Never trust the elf.
Guaranteed.
I do want
Yeah,
to comment. They were warriors, though.
they were.
Both of them.
Yeah, and
So-
One was an Ifrit.
They're both
Oh,
elemental.
okay,
I guess.
both elementals.
yeah,
Yeah,
never
yeah, yeah.
trust elves. Brought to you by
Elvemental.
Elf-amentals. Anyway, our camera pans down from the Exotiroche's peak, its pinnacle, from Frey falling unconscious from the hands of his treacherous subordinate, and it moves over and shifts lower. Same tower, but a few hundred meters, perhaps. There's another tower. Noel,
Yes.
describe to me what Cassius looks like, with the understanding that you wake up on your second day of wielding magic. Your bloodline has finally awoken through means of your own.
Cassius wakes up in his flamboyant robes.
You would have.
Of course.
He is early 20s, blonde, almost golden hair to his shoulders, almost swept back. And as he dresses himself, he's humming. He pulls on a green coat and a pair of golden shoulder pads to pad out a bit. Make his shoulder slightly...
Sort of epaulets, I think they're called.
Are they?
Yeah, Apollos, yeah.
Ah, okay. Well, I learned something new. I'm going to swing up the windows and just look out across my fantastic view of this desert.
It is tantalizing. In fact, on the corner side of the desert view, it's about half-half. Your balcony overlooks like a section of the Crystal Sea, which does shimmer pretty much constantly at this angle due to the constant orange haze, to give it a sort of prismatic sheen across. It's very pretty to look at. The red wasteland, not so much, but you try to ignore it.
Listen, the red wasteland has never looked better in my life.
This is true.
Mm.
And in the second day, you haven't gotten a servant of your own yet. Your parents were working on trying to figure out who exactly they wanted to serve the new heir of the family. Your brother had previously served as the heir because you were born magicless. You were a non-magical individual in the upper society of a magocracy. And as soon as your brother was born and it was found that he had awakened to an innate bloodline of magic as a sorcerer, he was immediately named the heir before you. And now, as your second day rife with magic, what is the first thing you want to do?
I am going to the nicest tavern I know of.
Mhm.
I'm going to have a drink.
So,
I'm going to
Mhm.
party this day away like it's the greatest day of my life.
okay.
Yesterday was the same, but today is better.
It only gets better, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
No
this,
breakfast.
this is the second day I have magic.
Mm.
Wow.
I mean, it keeps going up and up.
Yeah.
Then you stream Pathfinder and it all goes downhill.
Exactly.
Now,
We're getting
like I said, I'm going to clad myself in my robes.
Mhm.
And I'm going to be heading out.
All right. So, now that you have access to magic,
Hmm.
a possibility has opened up for you that you were unable to use before.
Hmm.
Your family, the
NVIDIA.
thank you. My bad, everyone. The NVIDIA family. Your tower, although your tower specializes in offensive magic, there is some obvious flares of other types of magic that you would use as well. Because it's not just evocation that deals damage, of course. You use all sorts of magic. But your family likes not quite flair, but to flaunt their power. For you, that's flair, but
Obviously. If you have magical powers, why not use them? Why not show that you are the best?
you are able to use the magical network, which will allow you to transport yourself from particular points in the city. This is only available to the top half or the top third of the city, the
The greatest.
Pons Alta, which stands for the high bridges. This gateway, you've never tried it before, but you know what would make for one hell of a flashy entrance?
Teleporting.
Teleporting straight into the middle of that tavern.
These networks, do they go from just specific points, right?
They do. But your family's tower is slightly different. They can teleport anywhere because your mother used to be the former the knight captain of the Mage's Guard. And this required her to be able to be anywhere at any time. And so her tower, your family's tower specifically, Tiberius your father had specifically requested the ability to travel anywhere there was potent points of mana. And in the Elementorum, there are quite a few of those places. The most common one would spit you out of the fireplace, unharmed, of one of the largest taverns in the Elementorum, of the Great Tree. And all you have to do is wish it as you step through the gateway.
That was the weakest snap ever.
It's
I was
fine.
hoping for some. Why was that one so
We'll add
hard?
it post. No worries.
No one will be worse.
What post? Anything I say is now permanent on the internet. This is
You don't have to
fantastic
keep
and
reminding
not
me.
nerve-wracking at all.
Every week, Snap.
Every week, Snap.
God damn it.
Put it like that.
You step through the gateway, and a rush of energy flows through you. This is only your second day, and this is wondrous to you. Everything is amazing. The world is 10 times more vibrant. You feel truly as amazing as you were. You always thought you were, the best of the best
Not in magic, but like,
in everything else.
yeah.
But now you're unparalleled in everything. And as you appear through the fireplace of the of what is called the tree's fruit, as it produces fruit-based beverages of very high renown. They grow all sorts of plants here that are usually unavailable upon the surface world. The Elementorium is the only place, as far as everyone knows, on the world, well, the known world, ever since the Sunshatter event, where you would see greenery, where trees thrive, plants exist, and there is life here. A lot of it is magically sustained, so certain druid circles are somewhat opposed to this, or juxtapositioned with ideals. But many druid circles call this place their home. But most importantly for you, so do bard colleges. And there are about 3 bards playing together currently, playing a very upbeat tune that has several people dancing. And you, now as the heir, have access to a host of wealth.
I wish to. Do they have like a hat or something where you can put money in to?
For the bards?
Yeah, for the bards.
Yes, they do. They have 3, and they every time someone puts 1 and 1, the other 2 maliciously eye whoever puts money into their hats.
I wish to strut towards the stage.
All right.
And I'm just checking my robe's pockets. I get 3 gold, and I put 1 in each, and just play the greatest song that you've ever played.
Now, these people immediately know who you are. There's a moment of confusion, and then 2 people were just about to make an incredibly horrific error in their career, where they know you. You were the stain of the Nvidia. But one person among the 3 has kept an ear out for rumor and decides to immediately cast a silent spell upon both of their allies very quickly in order to stifle them from beginning a song that you have never heard of before and obviously doesn't exist, and instead immediately tries to improvise a alternate version of this song, hoping against hope that you've never heard a song that slanders specifically you without naming you. And so instead he sings a song that praises you. You can, however, do me a society check with a +17 if you like.
I don't think I have. My mind is on other things.
Okay.
I would not currently. I just wanted them to be happy because I am happy.
Yeah.
I'm just going to head to the bar, and I'm just going to be asking for the finest they got.
All right. You do that, and at the bar stands a sort of very upbeat individual. He looks somewhat human, but also not quite, likely of some mixed heritage. You are not entirely certain what exactly that mix is, but at this point, that's pretty common in the city.
Do not care.
He looks at you. He saw the 3 gold that you dumped onto the bards that now are frantically scrambling together to try to improvise a song. They're doing rather well. They're doing okay. It's not the best you've heard, but you don't care. They're praising you. That's all that matters.
They're theater kids.
They're theater. They're trying to get brownie points in high society. And it's working somewhat. A handful of the patrons obviously eye you with not directed disdain, because that would be an insult to the Nvidia house regardless of who you were. But there are a lot of... If a glare could be sarcastic, that's the energy a lot of these people have. They kind of look at you from the corner of their eye and sort of... There's this slight air about them that feels pretentious to you. But the bartender puts his hands on the table and goes, Cassius, my friend. You've never met this man in your life. The strongest I've got.
Not the strongest,
Or
just
the
the finest.
best I've got.
The best, of course.
Best. I got you.
I need to be slightly coherent when I meet up with the rest of the family.
Of course, of course. Ah, right. The best is what you want. I recommend heartwood wine.
That sounds absolutely fantastic.
I'll bill your family later.
Do that.
Perfect. And he puts a bottle on the table. And he takes out a chalice. He's had high-profile customers before, so he has like the handful of cups he saves for people of high stature because he does not want to piss them off. He pops the cork and with a slightly like sharp thumb, just takes it right out. It's still on the cork is still on his thumb, so he could put it back if he would like. And he pours it into the glass with a sort of flourish and hands it to you, knowing full well that this is going to cost an ass load to anyone that wasn't the NVIDIA family. But to him, that's just payday galore. He's happy, so happy right now.
It's good you added detail about the cork on his finger. I would be completely unimmersed.
He recorks it and places it in a likely chilled receptacle. So I hear things have gone rather well for you.
Yes, they have. What was your name again? I'm sorry. My mind is a bit on other things today.
Barad.
Barad, of course. Well, it is quite something of a day today. As probably most of the people have heard, I have finally gotten to my righteous place.
It was a long time coming.
Of course. It's unfortunate that other people will lose because of it, but it's
with you rising in power, who could possibly lose? Everyone stands to gain. I hear you're quite academically powerful and
yes,
skilled and...
Absolutely. I'm going to take the first sip of the wine.
You've had it before, because it is, every now and then it shows up at your family table. It is it's called a wine, but it doesn't really have the same sort of texture. It's very smooth. It's got a vanilla hint, but it's very... But then a strong cherry comes out, and then it ends with a sort of grape, more wine-like finish that leaves you slightly soured. It sort of clenches your jaw up a little bit, but in I almost said
Live
mommy
from
way.
Stockholm, Sweden.
But in an enjoyable fashion.
Just using words.
Yeah, just using any words I got. It's the way of the DM. This is very, very enjoyable drink. It's very smooth. As someone who does not drink alcohol, I have likely described a horrendous and or non-existent thing, but this is a world of magic. I do what I want.
It sounds like some sort of sherry wine. Honestly.
Probably. I'm not sure.
Honestly, some form of weird mead.
It's made out of wood. I mean, come on.
Good.
It's magic, fairy, vanilla space, cherry wine, okay?
Exactly. Anyway.
There we have it.
So you enjoy your night. How long do you want to spend here?
I just got up in the morning. This is like...
The circadian rhythms equivalent of the morning.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Not even breakfast, just straight to the wine.
Yeah, exactly. If I remember correctly, I'm going to have some kind of meeting with my family later today.
Yeah. And around the equivalent of 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
Most people have some kind of magic method of keeping time. You have this little watch. But honestly, you've abandoned it because you can just snap your fingers and know what time it is. So why would you carry around such mundane tools that non-magical people need?
I'm probably going to spend most of the morning here.
Yeah.
I'm going to be drinking away. I'm even going to sing a bit.
Okay.
Daring.
Not probably the greatest. Do you wish to roll performance?
I would like you to roll performance. Give me a performance at we'll say plus...
My standard is +7.
Roll it a little higher.
You're what?
I'm normally +7, I think.
Normally +7. We'll say 14 for the sake of this.
Ooh,
because you've drinking a bit.
Roll it a bit higher up.
Oh no,
Was it 3?
3
On the dice, yeah.
this is starting
on the
out great
dice.
for you.
Okay. So at a total of 17, you miss notes. Your voice cracks here and there, but you're having the time of your life. You're having fun.
I probably wouldn't notice, but are people enjoying themselves at least?
Uh,
Either because it's decent or at my expense.
Your
You know what?
expense, Yeah.
a perception check for insight at let's say +11.
Yeah, that's 27.
27. You notice immediately there are a lot of people who are not having fun, specifically because it's you and your singing is horrendous, but they're keeping face, laughing with you, and they're not enjoying their time with you, but they are enjoying their time. You do clock that. But there are some people who are still having fun regardless. And they seem to be reveling with you, but you don't exactly have a riveted crowd. The bards are definitely doing a better job at keeping people from going, from rioting against you.
Yeah.
And or telling you to shut up.
After my time there, I'm just going to be heading to the to my tower.
All right. So you have a
Or my
meeting.
soon to be tower.
You have a meeting with your father, Tiberius, in video, and your mother, Cassandra, in video, the former knight captain of the Mages Guard. The technical true leader of this tower, but your father founded it first, but she leads it. Your father only founded. She married into it, but took charge. Tiberius is in his office. And when you return home, the air is relatively jovial still. People are still congratulating you as you walk past. Many of the servants that work here, they smile at you and, Cassius, I'm very glad that pleasantries. Like I'm very glad that you finally awakened. We were waiting for this day. Just all this sort of like gratitudes, pretty much, and flattery as they come past you.
I'm going to give them a smile and just nod my head and say whatever I need to say to just get past them.
More than one of them are very flustered by you. Both of just any persuasion. Just a handful of them are quite flustered, and they vacate immediately. But you reach your father's office. How do you want to enter? What sort of? How do you want to?
I'm not going to slam open the doors, obviously.
Yeah, okay.
Father.
You know,
I might as well ask. You never know. Like, what kind of energy do you want to greet
Emperor's
your
New
father
Groove just kicking in the door like boom, baby.
Somebody.
Not saying you will get struck.
You know, I'm going to do the little known trick of just putting down the door handle and opening the door.
Ah, yes.
Yes.
Smart trick, yeah. I keep
Boring,
forgetting that's
though.
a possibility.
Can
Roll to open the door.
No. I'm not going to make you roll for everything. And there will be clarification for why a lot of numbers don't add up later on. I promise. Basically, you step into your father's office, and he's not exactly the most stern individual. He's always kept you in rather decent regard, though he has admittedly neglected you quite a bit. He is currently trying to make amends, though it feels a little off that it's, waited until you finally awoke to magic to fully embrace you as his son truly. But he's never been ill-willed towards you.
No.
He's always been very kind to you, and as long as Cassandra isn't looking, spoiled you a little bit. The moment Cassandra's eyes, however, are on him, like they are now, as this sort of older, weathered-looking woman stands next to him as your father. The spinning, he looks very similar to you. The long blonde hair pulled back, a slightly more angular face, and just older features with a very neatly trimmed beard that Cassandra forces him to keep trimmed because he wants to grow out a very long wizard beard, and she told him no. It's you keep it shaved or you sleep on the couch. So he keeps it shaved, and he sort of leans over the desk, and he motions at sort of excitedly at the seat before you. He almost goes like he was about to speak before Cassandra, a far more weathered individual who has seen battle. She has scars across her face where she had sustained acid damage in the past. And she simply wears them as like badges of honor at this point. Her hair is still kept really short, almost a buzz cut out of comfort at this point. She's just used to it. Long hair is annoying. And it catches fire easily. And she glares at your father for a brief moment and then looks at you and just sort of silently looks at the seats.
I'm going to walk up and I'm just going to almost lay back and cross my legs and just like lean back, looking as comfortable as possible.
Your mother does not look happy, but then again, she never does. So that's not exactly an improvement or a worsening of it, but she is glaring at you. Your father, on the other hand, ignores that as much as he can.
I'm giving him as large of a grin I can.
Cassius, my son, I cannot tell you how happy I am for this day. Yesterday was truly a miracle, a blessing. Such words should not be used lightly in these times, but I feel like they are apt. You've finally awoken to our family bloodline. And I am so proud to be able to reinstate you as my heir.
I am so thankful for it. However, I would like to give something to my brother. Even though I would be the primary heir at this point, I would like to leave something for him. Because by me rising to inherit this tower, he's going to lose quite a lot. And I do not want it to be bad blood between us.
Well, your brother so far seems to have taken it very, very well. I was almost expecting a bit of rebelliousness and anger. He is in his early teens after all, reaching that age and all that. But he's behaving. But it is good that you mentioned such. We were worried about how we were going to handle the handovers and the general consensus of whether or not you should get X or Y goes to your brother.
We can talk about the details another time.
Ever since you mentioned leaving something for your brother and not fully just straight up stealing the thunder, your mother seems to have brightened up slightly, which to anyone else, the rolling thunderhead that is her face goes from being 12 lightning bolts per second to 11 maybe. So she looks slightly more at ease, but you clock that immediately because, well, you're used to her by now. And she hasn't ever been directly mean to you, but she's very stern. She's strict, and she expects greatness out of both you and Ilias without hesitation. She places great expectations upon you. Even when you didn't have magic, she would tell you that it's not an excuse to be garbage, which is very horrific wording.
Don't be garbage.
Yeah, just do your best in anything you can. The rest will sort itself out. She's a very direct, blunt woman. She doesn't give a shit about protocols, which is why Tiberius handles the diplomacy, and she handles whenever anything needs to truly be done. She's the one that handles it. She carries a lot of authority still, even though she has finally retired as of 5 years ago from the Mage's Guard. After unofficially retiring from it when you were born. And you spend pleasantries with your father. And you go over a handful of details of like the now process. Like what exactly is it that you're getting? What will be expected of you? What classes you will now have to go through in order to make up for lost time for classes that weren't essential to you then, which kind of hurts you a little bit because they basically never expected you to awaken to magic ever, and so they never made you go through the courses that your brother went through, that trained you specifically in effectively heading a mage's tower, and what that implies, what your duties entail, and how they will change, how your responsibilities change. And he is ecstatic the whole time. He is smiling, happy, upbeat, and even your mother sort of seems amicable throughout the majority of this time. And as the evening sort of draws to a close, or rather, you all start to feel the wear of the day as the sun literally doesn't move in the sky due to the sun shatter event that I will get into at some point. This is character backstory stuff, not setting backstory. You'll get that later. Anyway, I like how I keep pointing at the... I really should stop.
Yeah, sure.
That is the right camera, though, right?
I hope it is.
Yeah, it's welcome if someone pointed at me like you do to the audience.
You. Anyway, the most important part is you spend the day sort of carousing, or not carousing, dealing with your father and sort of signing some papers. There's a lot of paperwork that has to be done, like a lot. You have an actual like miniature mountain of it on your desk that you've been... You don't have time for that shit. You just got magic.
It is important paperwork, though.
It is important paperwork. So you've probably set to doing as much as you can in the evening. Sort of the shades of your windows have been pulled so that it filters out the orange haze of the sun shatter eclipse. So that you no longer have to deal with your entire room being bathed in red all day. It turns instead to like a darker bluish shade, which is much more pleasant. And you set to work, a magical lamp next to you to light up a dancing light to light up your desk. 4 orbs appear, and you hum away until the night takes you. Cassius, in your dreams, as you rest for the night, the smell of sulfur and brimstone is rather keen. It cuts through even in your sleep. You can smell this as if you were awake, but you cannot awake. You dream of flames that dance across the red wasteland around you, the abyssal wasteland. As flames dance across it, which is not an uncommon sight. Hellfire storms pass through all the time. But these fires burn brighter. The sun in the sky seems to almost bleed through the cracks. And although this dream takes but a few seconds in your state of sleep, you awaken abruptly to a very loud crash at your door as your door is slammed open. And your senses come to, and you no longer, you smell the familiar sense of your room, the sort of perfumes and various oils that you use to maintain your skin and all that sort of stuff comes back to you in a rush, just as your door slams open and several heavy footsteps rush through. What is your immediate response?
I begin to try to conjure an arc of lightning.
All right. So the way we're going to do that is I'm going to roll a pair of dice, and we'll see what happens. Okay. One of them do okay, the other one not so much. As you sort of awaken, and this is innate magic to you. Like, you own this magic. This is your bloodline. There's no need to waste time on thinking about which incantations to use, which scripts are applicable here. No. You command the magic in your hands, in your blood, to zap lightning. And as the lightning strikes, I assume you are using electric arc.
Yeah.
It bounces from you. You simply... And the lightning bounces from one to the other. One of them fries in his armor and drops dead on the floor. You're not entirely sure if he's dead or not, but he's definitely incapacitated. He's harmed. You don't think he died.
I wish to stand up and looking as intimidating as I possibly can in my night robes.
You know what? You mean intimidation at 17.
In those like Marilyn Monroe negligee.
That seems about right, yeah.
22.
22. Not a failure. So, one man drops. And this is what this happens in seconds. The first man drops.
Yeah.
And you stand intimidating as three more people rush in past. The one who had the lightning bounce from him to his ally is currently still struggling with the sort of muscle contortions that lightning causes, but seems to have weathered it relatively well. As three others rush through behind him.
What is the meaning of this?
And they don't immediately respond as one of them yells, "Cassius Invidia, you are hereby arrested under the orders of the Mage King for consorting with devilry." As four more behind the three that had rushed in, two of them immediately sort of grab their electrified ally and drag him away as they begin to pile into the room. Blades at the ready. What sort of immediate response do you have to this? Is there...
Where's your proof? What? Who would have lied about such a thing? I'm going to say, and try not to stammer in my voice.
Yeah.
In your bathrobes, by the way.
Night robes.
Night.
Night.
As you do.
I'm sorry.
I would like you to make me a reflex saving throw with a plus 14.
29.
29. Okay. As you stutter, like, who would lie to, or like almost stutter. You don't quite break. You manage to keep yourself, but you are stressed right now because, well, who the fuck wouldn't be?
Yeah.
Surrounded by so many armed soldiers.
In your own bedroom.
Yes.
In your own bedroom, in your nightgown, having to immediately electrify people. As you sort of, because you are now standing in your bed, yeah?
I'm not standing on my bed.
So you've like stood up, or have you gotten off?
I've gotten off my bed.
Okay, you've thrown yourself off your bed. Okay. So you stand and there is... You missed it by one. Missed by one, everyone. There it is. I was waiting for this moment. Here we go.
Oh no.
Of course it fucking happens in the vignettes. Anyway, as you sit up and get your feet touch the floor and you demand justification, you are immediately thrown off of your feet again and you hit the back wall sort of through one of your bedposts pillars, because you obviously had one of those,
Yeah.
big ass
It's king size bed.
king size bed with the
Canopy.
and curtains, everything, just the whole shebang. And you go straight through one of the poles and hit the far wall. This isn't enough to incapacitate you. You're rather tough. And the guards immediately surround you in a semicircle as you are struggling to get up off the floor. As your mother steps into the doorway. You immediately know that she's the one that knocked you on your ass. And she holds a relic, effectively, an icon, with a pair of gloves. She normally doesn't wear armor anymore in the house, but she seems to have stolen or like taken one of the knight's gauntlets, shoved it on, and picked this up. And as she holds it, there is like an abjurational tinge to her and the entire gauntlet, as she uses quite literal force magic to keep it between her fingers without touching it at all times. An idol, a key component in a devil summoning ritual. And behind her is Elias, who, when Cassandra looks back, Elias looks betrayed. He looks sad, stricken, terrified of you. And she looks back at you.
This is preposterous. I have nothing to do with this. Somebody's setting me up.
Cassius. This was found in an area you only have access to due to the abjurational wards of this facility. The only other two people who can get in are your father and myself. And I know where your father has been for the last week, if not longer. Elias noticed that the door was open because the wards were damaged by extraplanar energy. And do you look at Ilias, your brother?
Yeah.
Your younger brother, because Cassandra cannot currently see him, has the largest shit-eating grin across his face. You do not recognize this totem, or this idol, this twisted skull carved with infernal runes and sigils. You know that that's not yours. Cassandra seems convinced it is, and there doesn't seem to be much that can stop her from thinking otherwise. And Elias has these tear channels that go through the sort of rund, puffy eyes. And he looks at you and goes, as Cassandra once more flings her hand at you, and your entire world goes from right side up to upside down very fast. And darkness claims you as you slam against the floor.
Ouch.
I would like to rescind my former statement and say, don't trust anyone out in the elves.
Not even yourself.
Not even myself.
As our intro stated, I don't know if that was there when we went fully live because it was slow and delayed. But yeah, a story of 5 people cast down from their homes. Enjoy that story because we're getting through it one at a time.
None of what we say on MissedByOne is supposed to be taken as life advice. I have to be clear about that.
Speak for yourself. I give him excellent life advice.
I am trying to get through these pretty quickly. Anyway, without rushing anything. Now, we're going to have a drastic shift in scenery, but no less tense, as the camera pans swiftly from the sudden arrest of Cassius and Vidya for supposedly devil summoning.
Supposed.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Alleged.
Demon. Devil summoning.
As his lawyer.
I would very much want a lawyer.
Oh, yeah. Unfortunately.
I had never seen that totem.
Unfortunately, the best lawyers are devils.
I have never had devilish interactions with that woman.
Oh, good job. Now all of the lawyers that are watching us stream are going to tune off. Well done.
There must be a lot of them. As you go through and you fight the as the camera pans through the city, it goes from the Exoteritere through the high bridges, where we go through and under the vast sort of networks, this intricate web-like structure of the city, where magic seems to be the fundamental core of everything. There are magical lifts. If they're not directly arcane, they're likely of primal or occult origin. The 3 major traditions of magic here. Divine magic is very rare and almost unheard of in most circles, except for some parts of the Elementorum, the Great Tree, who, as we pan through the city, we go through bridges of houses and gravity wells holding up certain platforms that shift from one axis to another to allow people to transport themselves from one layer to another layer of this densely packed, wondrous magical city of towers and bridges and buildings built into these sort of intricate patterns. If you were not born here, this place would be hell to navigate. And even then, some people just stick to their little slice of this city because it is a vast city. And we find ourselves at the Elementorum once more, at a sharp diagonal downwards. We reach the we reach Pons Media, the middle bridges, through the heart of the city to the middle of the Great Tree, where there is an explosion that destroys half of a room full of various sort of like druidic growths, sort of like an indoor farm fueled by magic. An explosion rocks the entire room as one druid is pinned to the wall by a almost metallic thorn, burrowing through his flesh and pinning him to the other side of the room. Several other sort of similar spikes jet out from the general direction of the explosion and pin themselves into the various positions of the wall, missing a handful of druids, but a handful of unfortunate druids find themselves impaled and die. That's what happens when you're killed.
Mostly. You die when you're killed.
And as this happens, and this hole is created, and people immediately set into panic in this sort of upper middle area of the Elementorum itself, the great tree, steps through a few figures. One of them of indeterminate origin. They are almost featureless in terms of looking at them. It feels weird. They have features, but they don't register when you look at them. They don't settle into place. Almost like face blindness forced upon you. But the weirdest part is the fact that it feels entirely normal. It just goes unregistered in your brain, especially when you're used to it. As beside him steps a dwarven figure. Edward.
Yes.
Describe your character in the context of battle. You are raiding the Spiritus Elementorum itself.
Right.
And you are on a mission. There is a heartwood core here that you need to destroy.
Right. So, among this group of druids who suddenly arrive in time to the explosion, goes this dwarf with a wild expression on his face. His hair is shortly cropped, goes down his back, almost like a mane, as he has beastly features among him. His beard is wild and shaggy, and his overbody is almost bare, only some straps of vines and leaves to him covered with pouches of components for druidic magic. And he steps confidently forward, almost a bit hunched over. The group further pushes forward through the crowds.
Okay. And as you sort of push through the panic, you violently shove a few people aside. They're not worth your time. They don't look like druids themselves. They are simply workers here. The man or the individual that came with you, though they often take a male guise, they look at you, nod, and then rush off towards the side. You know this individual as Iras. They are a sort of one of the more subterfuge styled druids with a hint of ranger dexterity to him, where he bobs and weaves through the crowd with blades that flash made out of ironwood as he takes down a handful of druids that had hidden among the crowd. And he seems to take off to the right in this open area crowded with people who are running and screaming as there are people being killed. Several other druids step in with you, transform into beast, and begin mauling anyone that gets close to them. The left side is open for you to rush through. And as you do, there are 3 druids that stand before you that ready their... two of them ready a totem of some kind, and another raises a staff towards you. What is your immediate response?
My immediate response is to conjure ball of fire to throw at the feet in order to produce a huge fire and smoke plume to hide me from their sight. And then I rush forward, transform into the shape of a wolverine.
Okay.
A small one or a
large one, almost like it's not the small one. It's like almost like a huge, like great lumbering dog, almost that sort of size.
Okay.
Like a big Rottweiler?
Yeah, like almost bigger, like almost up to around one's waist, like one of the really, really big ones.
Yeah, a thick boy.
Scientific term there.
Of course. Thickest, bigotus, wolverinus. Anyway.
dire Wolverine.
I have to butcher the hell out of Latin in this game. It wouldn't be this game otherwise. So you immediately conflagrate the ground in order to produce this smoke, and it provides a smoke screen. And two of the druids with totems sort of like step back as they believed that you were trying to hit them with the fire directly. The one with the staff stays where he is, like he doesn't flinch much, but he does try to send a vine through the smoke that misses you by a hair as you leap through and transform into this beast. I imagine that you are going for the one with the staff.
No, I'm going straight behind him and going for the throat of the one that gets with the totem.
All right. So you rush past the guy with the totem. I would like you to give me an attack roll at plus, we'll say 16.
Plus 16. Right. Natural 20.
Oh, baby. Let's go.
So early.
Murder him.
You know what? I'll let you describe this one. What do you do?
Right.
What happened?
Can we say that I talk all three?
What?
Can I do all three? Talk them?
You know
or
what?
Just one of them?
You can definitely get the two totem boys.
Right. So as I weave to the side of the vine, I slip behind the one in front. As I jump up from the smoke, and in my Wolverine form, I go up and just bite out the throat of one of the druids passing by. And since I had all this momentum, I basically go to the side, and as I bite the throat out, the druid twists around, falls down on the floor as I slide backwards, and then rush up and to go for the back of the other one. So basically making a U-turn through using the help of someone's throat to just...
Yeah, so you rush through the flames, being like this vine misses you by a hair, and you use the fact that he had cast something as the to your advantage, slipping past him and then leaping off the ground to immediately tear the throat out of the druid beside him, who falls over, and with the momentum sort of carries you around so that you can leap from having basically torn his throat open midair, leaving him to bleed out very quickly as he thuds to the ground. And not even before his body hits the ground, you have leapt onto the back of the other one, your claws digging deep into his back, and you begin to tear chunks off of him. He screams, and it doesn't take long until the shock just kills him. He can't really do much against that in that state of panic. So what the fuck would you do with a Wolverine jumping at you? The one with the staff whirls around, and in one final sort of desperate attempt, he casts. He will attempt to cast a spell. This time it will be a roll. Okay, that's rather nasty. And this time he manages something. As you are busy sort of tearing through this druid, this guy realizes that his ally is already gone. There's nothing he can do to save him. And so he takes a very druidic approach as he points the staff at the man, and his body turns into wood. And the thorns explode from him, which basically end up stabbing you in multiple locations before you leap off, leaving you with a handful of fairly grievous wounds, but you manage to, in your state of rage and fury, simply fucking ignore them.
Right.
You are a Wolverine, and you will not be stopped. Force of nature to be reckoned with. And this druid looks at you with fear in his eyes, as it is now your turn to respond.
Right.
Be gentle to him.
You choose to make friends
He
with
is
him.
afraid.
You come to an understanding. And
Diplomacy.
Diplomacy, yeah.
Diplomacy. I should conduct this diplomacy by trying to rush up to him using the now wooden statue of this druid friend as cover, and to try to basically just... I'm thinking to go for the legs and try to bring it down to the ground.
All right. I'm going to do a basic save. That's not good for him. This poor motherfucker has basically effectively killed his friend in order to try and kill you, although his friend was probably going to die anyway. But he is terrified, and as you rush him and sort of you topple one of his legs just with your sheer like force and body weight, you are a dense creature. A dwarf turning into a wolverine. There's not much space for that.
No.
That's very compact. And you rush through one of his legs, which doesn't break it, or it you hear the crack of some kind of bone. You likely probably broke his leg, but it sends him careening like forward, and he does pretty much like a flip onto the floor by the momentum, leaving his upper body for you to just sort of go ham on. He does try to begin casting some sort of druidic spell and to scramble away, but he doesn't really have time. Do you just go straight for the kill?
Well, considering that our goal is for this
Heartwood
Heartwood
core.
They
make wine out of that too.
It's probably going to be more enemies up ahead, so gonna try to catch up with others and just take his head with one paws, slam it into the ground, and then just keep on running.
You leave a head-sized crater in the wood. It doesn't take much to break it. As you just simply, and he stops moving, and you rush forward to try to find the Heartwood core. And from your knowledge, what Heartwood cores do is that although as they age and wither away, they can be made into certain types of beverages and drinks. Often they are crushed into a fine powder, which is very strange. They are kind of like a fruit more than they are wood, but they're also wood. And they grow in the center of Heartwood trees. And you know that they also function while they are young and sort of mature, or to the maturing age. They function as like a sort of like the heart of a battery almost. It powers a lot of druidic functions in the Elementorum and the surrounding areas.
So destroying one would basically kind of, so to speak, magical power outage in an entire portion.
Pretty much, and they are difficult to regrow. This has sort of been your hit and run tactic for a while now. And it has been proving itself rather effective because there are several places that no longer function in the Elementorum, in the middle to lower districts due to the acts of your druidic circle. There are several platforms that no longer move. There are several people who can no longer sustain themselves in the area that they were and had to move. Further causing more stress and duress upon society. But your druid circle hates society, so fuck them.
Quite so.
Evil.
Quite so.
Jokes on you.
No. This is actually natural. True.
A natural sort of evil. And as you tear through, this is all normal to you. You were raised to believe that all of this is awful. These people are terrible people who are twisting nature, and they're the whole reason why a lot of things have happened. You believe with conviction in your Archdruid, who has effectively taught you that the city itself is nothing more than a hive of a species from another, almost like another planar entity of just evil. There's no saving these people. There's no converting them. They only want to destroy the world around them, take everything for themselves. And while it does have a handful of, notes of truth to a general sort of consumerism-ish baseline of people making trade and selling and money being a thing, resources come and go. And a lot of people become very greedy. But at the same time, your group is a little bit more extreme in the sense that they want to fully expulge the city. They want to destroy this place. But taking down Idrenados is very difficult. It is almost impossible to do so from the bottom, and you sort of have to begin somewhere in the middle and work your way up and down. So your people have pretty much just been causing havoc. You know of at least 3 other raids going on right now. One one to distract the Praesidium currently from this raid, and another in the Edificium, where they are currently trying to cause a larger platform held up by a gravity well to collapse upon a general vicinity of the of another part of the Edificium.
Glorious. Glorious.
We're
More mayhem,
all good party.
more mayhem, more good.
Yeah. And this generally should keep you two from being swarmed by guards, theoretically speaking, because they have their hands full. There are 3 current locations being attacked, and unbeknownst to the Order, there's also a handful of other things happening at the same time. Where the Druidic orders are, or the current guards are currently thinly spread due to a handful of issues across the city.
Some demonically or devilish related activities, perhaps.
Maybe. And as you rush, you rush through this sort of like the corridors of this place has been grown to house people. It's a tree that has been not cut, not chipped into, not shaped by tools. This is a place that has been grown into the tree. The floor is bark. The walls are an exposed sort of wood that seems to thrive with moss upon it. There is a strong sense of symbiosis going on between a lot of the different flora here. I almost said fauna like an idiot. But the various flora here seems to have some kind of symbiotic relationship with everything. But to you, this is an abhorrent, twisted abomination of nature. This is as if someone made a house of bodies or something outrageously just atrocious to you. It makes no sense. It doesn't have rhyme or reason. The tree.
This is straight up heresy.
Yeah, this is heresy to you. This is anathema specifically to warp nature in this way, to live like termites in its body effectively. Despite the fact that the Elementorm does take care of itself really well, it's
the principle thing.
That's trying to, make light of a bigger issue. And so you rush forward through these twisting tunnels of wood and moss until you eventually reach a chamber that sort of opens widely up, and you see strings of like a fleshy, like a sort of spongy, more like texture of these like tendrils. Almost like they remind you a lot of roots, like the root of a flower or something. They're very delicate root systems that go from the center of this sort of large tree in the center of this kind of like an antechamber. It's quite large, and there's this tree in the center of it where there's these roots that come out of it everywhere, like kind of like power lines almost for a modern representation of what that would look like. It's like someone hooked a shit ton of plugs into this battery that feeds all across this room. And you watch in the corner of your eye, you see Iras get thrown into a wall before simply vanishing, and the man who threw him collapses as his throat is slit open. And as this happens, you burst through, and there's a group of druids that are trying to protect the Heartwood tree. 2 of them are trying to fend off 2 other shapeshifted druids, and one of them is currently trying to put themselves out of being on fire, but they seem to be more of a rock-oriented druid, as they try to effectively like dust coat themselves to smother the flame, but it just won't go out before he finally collapses to the side. And a handful of other druids stand opposing you before a blade whizzes past you and hits one of them square in the chest. and then that blade vanishes back into the hand of Iras. As he looks at you, silent as always, person rarely speaks. And then you sort of try to there's only like one that really still seems to be conscious at the moment, as the others are dealing with what's left. As he sort of is leaned up or sat propped up against the tree, wheezing. He's holding a wound as he has a spike similar to the burrs that initially exploded through the wall, through his side, and he's holding it. And he's sort of leant up against the heartwood tree, staring at you. And he goes, he sort of looks around him and goes, "So this is what has become of the primordial circle under the blasphemous reign of Kagrad." How he has twisted your order. All for revenge for his wife.
At that moment, can I interrupt him?
Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead.
I shift out my werewolf form. I just move towards him slowly. Just that I slowly turn back into my half dwarf, half Wolverine beastkin shape. And I think to silence, you domesticated dog. You have turned and twisted these woods into becoming nothing more than the servitude and slave of agriculturalism. This wood is not a sentinel of the wild. It is a totem of the civilization that destroyed this world. We are bringing down nature's vengeance upon you with fire, teeth, and claw. And you do not get to speak of the Archdruid's name. You see him just basically shimmering with anger as Ibor slowly walks up to him.
Once you reach the sort of the end of your speech, the druid on the ground dying looks at you. And where you would expect anger, because if someone had told you the same words that you just heard about your order, you would get mad. In fact, you did get mad. You were called a heretic and you got angry. This druid does not look at you with anger. He looks at you with pity. He has this sympathetic sort of look of, this is what has come to. This is what they have become. And he sort of looks at you, puffs his chest up as much as he can while, bleeding out. And he just sort of like pridefully accepts what's about to happen. And he says, "If only Ashu knew." And before he finishes his sentence, you hear a whisper in your ear. And this isn't super uncommon. Aras is a bit of an ass and will spook the shit out of people when he wants, or when they want. And you hear, "For Kagrad's sake, sleep." And a very high-pitched whistle begins to sort of overtake your senses as the world lurches a bit, as several things happen at once.
Okay.
One, I need a fortitude saving throw at plus 16.
15, that's 28.
28, okay. A very sharp pain appears at around your mid-back.
Right.
And swiftly begins to spread through the rest of your body. And you manage to stave off the worst of this thing's effects as your body suddenly becomes incredibly heavy. It doesn't seem to be killing you, but it becomes heavy
Basically, can you
And-
stumble a bit, that sort of thing, or
You sort of stumble a bit, and so as your vision begins to swim, another whisper pierces through this daze and goes, I need you to fall for my plans. For Kagrad's sake. As the final thing that happens, that's the final thing you hear before the sudden, a very sharp pain erupts from the back of your head, as you don't hear the impact of a blunt object knock you unconscious and likely crack your skull slightly. As the poison sort of ebbs through you and you drop. And that is how your section ends.
Wait.
Almost everyone's getting betrayed.
Yeah, I just realized.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a
I'm
theme here.
Never trust anyone. We've been through this.
especially people who have no recognizable features.
Ironically, there might only be one.
I just want to point out the
Yeah.
fact. I just want to point out the fact that the Elementorum is run by an actual physical power plant,
Yeah.
No.
and that hit me like about 15 minutes into the Hartford course. It's a power plant. It's a power plant.
How long have
Puns-
you been waiting to say that?
Like at least 15 minutes. I don't know if you've seen, but I've been like,
I could see the sweat on your brow.
I don't usually run this as heavy-handedly, like narratively, but there's just some things I really want to hone in. As we go from the Elementorum and remain in Pons Media, through the sort of nooks and crannies of between the Exoterice and the Idaficium, there is a small tower tucked away, forgotten by most, but it stays relevant in certain circles. It's a bit of an awkward path to get to. It seems to almost be by design hard to find. And there are little corner shops along the way, little cute places that sort of seem innocuous and probably are. And the tower itself is this dilapidated appearing building that sort of blends in with the rest of the area around it. It's sort of the lower middle section of the bridges where the sort of economic decline begins effectively from the middle downwards. And in this little tower, or this area, due to the Idaficium, there is the occasional rain that sort of pitter-patters across the stonework here. Not a whole lot, but just, a light shower with a bit of a little bit more here and there. As there are a handful of waterfalls that sort of go past your platform into pools beneath. And sort of the occasional gold-crusted marble obelisk that seems to just kind of pulse with some sort of gravitational magic every now and then. Will you, Emily, describe your character as you walk to the door of your old home looking for something?
Right. So she's walking in a steady pace. She knows where she's going. She's treaded this road so many times before. Doesn't even need to look at it. In fact, she doesn't. She seems to stare off in a distance, deep in thought of some sort. She is somewhat interminable age, could be late 20s, around. Her hair is a slight reddish tint of auburn, and she's wearing spectacles on her face. She keeps pushing up because they keep sliding down for some reason. Small, oval-shaped. Her shoulders are cloaked in a capelet. It's all white, it's all pristine, but the wear is starting to show. It's a testament of better times. She wears black gloves, sort of up to her, like, what do you call elbows?
What do they call them? Elbows.
Bendy stretch thing.
Yes.
Bendy stretch things.
Armband.
And yeah, she's just it's like in a sense of like annoyance. She's like pushing her hair is like sort of wee length,
Yeah.
sort of to the shoulders, and there's a slight gray streak going like at up front, like in a bang that she keeps pushing to the side. I can't really tell if it's premature graying or just stress related. But the capelet and the clothing is sort of almost like if you were. It's very typical of upper scholarly circles. Not quite the robes of the mages, but as a merge between a lab coat and something more fancier, sort of buttoned and up front with silver tassels. So yeah, and she's on her way to the tower for what she is certain is probably the last time.
You came here to look for a handful of books. One of them was written by you.
Yes.
Two of them was written by Ernest.
Yes.
And they are about the nature of the hollowing.
Yes.
And they contain notes that you are after. You need them to continue a specific experiment you have going on down, all the way down below the city itself,
As far as
ground level, the scaffolding,
Yes.
where you have currently taken up to hiding. You've made the incredibly perilous journey to return to the upper city in order to look for these books. You know that if you were to be caught, you wouldn't get another second chance. And you were exiled once, and most people who are exiled usually never return. Few people are even allowed to be exiled without, well, actually vanishing forever. Like, not even to the scaffolding. They are usually imprisoned and or dealt with. But due to some of the exploits you have as a doctor, you were allowed state of execution, effectively, at the cost of exile. And you walk over to the front door, which the entire exterior of this place is just as disgusting and ramshackle as you remember it. And it has a charm to it that you're used to. And you knock on the door, I imagine?
Yeah. I knock and then I take a step back and crosses my arms behind my back and wait patiently.
There's a sort of long silence. You're not a little uncomfortably long. There doesn't seem to be much movement. You don't hear anything behind the door until eventually you hear pitter-patter of feet sort of muffled by the door. And it opens just enough to hit the limit of a chain that had been attached to the inside of the door so that the person inside can peek. And you see the half sort of darker complexion in the orange haze of the sky. Someone you know as Shelia. And she looks at you, sees you, and there's a brief moment of just panic and fear.
I'll take that moment and shove my foot in, like in between the wedging up the door.
And she tries to slam the door shut and is caught by your foot. It hurts, but like it doesn't have enough momentum to really actually hurt your foot that bad. And she just goes, no. I cannot risk being the end of your third chance. You don't get those. I don't. What are you doing here?
Julia, I'm not even anticipating a third chance, all right? I need to find some of my work and 2 books of Ernest. And I know that you're keeping them, so don't try to lie to me.
But Ernest has been gone for ages. What do you need any of his work for?
Just trust me when I say it's very important to my latest work. I'm certain of it. I'm so close to some form of discovery, and we both know the importance. So just, come on, don't be silly. Just open the door, or I will stand outside and I will holler and I will yell until I get escorted away by guards, because guess what? You can't exactly fall any lower than I have, but you can. You don't want to be seen with someone in exile, right?
She lets out a shuddered breath and sort of like looks at you through the door.
I did not want to put you in this spot, but you have to let me in.
No one must know.
No one will know.
Not Izzet, not Giffel, no one.
No one. All right?
And she sort of, you do have to take your foot out of the door in order for her to close it, and you hear that the unchaining of the door, and she swings it open, just enough to let you in, without letting her to be seen to the rest of the street.
As the door sort of closes, as she's unhooking the chain, she sort of smooths out the wrinkles that I've gotten in my uncharacteristic eagerness to get through the door.
And she does open and let you in, and you step inside, and as expected, the outside is ramshackle, broken down, hideous. It's the roof tiles are split. The wooden paneling is curling. It's decrepit. The inside is pristine. Every nook and cranny of this place seems to be without dust. There are 2 enchanted brooms that seem to have continued to fly through and eradicate any little speck of dust it might find. There are scrolls and books that line the walls with sort of these layered bookshelves that you could like shift one up to get to the next and shift another one up. And they're all specifically organized in a way where anyone part of the Stelkadar collective can immediately recognize and identify where something is at a glance. And despite the fact that you haven't been here for a while, it's been a good few years, it sort of comes rushing back to you in a wave of nostalgia.
I'm just sort of pausing in my step, just taking a deep breath, just inhaling that scent, that smell of tomes, of scrolls.
And as you sort of drink that in again, because this place smells like books, this place smells like paper, it smells of ink. There are several desks where quills move on their own to fill out pages and forms, where there are 2 books open and it seems to be transcribing like some sort of translation. A sort of natural enchantment to this place that you know. The translation desks, basically. They do most of that work. And then sort of as you're drinking this in and you sort of like run a hand along some of the old woods, like the parts of the bookshelf that have been eroded by like the constant touch that you need to do in order to sund one up. It doesn't seem to respond to your touch anymore.
No.
Which does sort of sadden you somewhat.
Yeah.
But as you're doing this, Shelia seems to have prepared a form of a tea and sets down. She seems incredibly stressed, though, by your appearance. And, like, you being here is incredibly dangerous for her.
I'm going to take the moment of just accepting the tea graciously and sitting down in like one of those comfy leather type armchairs. Sort of fling up one leg on the other and just.
I see.
Always manners. I love that about you, Shelia.
I see you've made yourself right at home again.
It's hard not to.
Look. A lot of your work was taken.
I anticipated that.
The Magus Guard came in and they searched everywhere. They used all sorts of magic to divine things and try to find intent, and they even brought in authrometers to feel for sympathetic links between things. There's so little left. What you all see, this is all simply a crumb of what we had. Do you understand what your second chance costed us?
I am aware, but trust me, Shilia. The work that I'm pursuing right now, look at this place. It will all come crumbling down, and we both know that there's more than we could ever possibly imagine about the Hallowed. And I just feel I'm so close. I'm this close to unraveling that mystery. I promise you, this will not have been in vain.
You're tampering with magic that is beyond people like us.
Someone has to. When Ernest was running this, he would have supported my research.
There you go again, bringing him into this. Look, they took everything that wasn't nailed down, and they graciously allowed us to continue to be as long as we didn't step on anyone's toes again.
Did they take the Ladovian editions too?
Pretty soon they've been burned along with the rest. They were ruthless in ratting out everything we had. And she sort of takes a moment, she looks at you and...
Go on, say it. I know that you want to. It's written in your face. You've never been good at keeping secrets, Shilia.
They may have taken everything that wasn't nailed down. There are some things we have kept safe. And among them, and you notice that she is speaking very softly on purpose. She seems to be almost whispering to you, and sort of keeping an eye out nervously around the area, and you're not entirely sure why.
Is there pen and paper around here?
Yeah. You are surrounded by it.
Yeah, but
You
like
can literally
nearby.
just take a quill off.
I'm
one of the
plucking
floating quills.
Yeah, I'm plucking a quill from the air.
Yeah. It sort of protests a little bit, the feather, but then it eventually like stops moving entirely as you just break the link.
Cease that. And I write on a piece of parchment the words as following. Are they listening? And I sort of slide it on the table.
Can you do me a perception check?
Yes, I may. Ooh. Right.
First roll. For
Resident Dice Goblin.
Let's go.
I have to. Also, I'm actually going to do my first roll with this one.
All right. I love how you dumped all of those dice just to bring out that one from your pocket to roll.
Always
brilliant.
keep a d20 in your pocket.
Always.
It's a rule of life.
Yes.
Team,
You
everyone
take
watching can't see it.
So I bought this. It might be blessed or it might be incredibly cursed, and we're about to find out. That's a 7. That's not great.
All right. And we'll give this
it's a magical number.
14.
That's 21.
21. So you clock fear.
Right.
There is a sense of dread in her features. She is shaken, both by your appearance and something else. She seems to be distracted by something, but you don't fully clock exactly where that's coming from or which direction it's being aimed at, and you feel like it might just be jittery nerves of just general
All right.
fear of you being here. Because who knows who might have followed you? Who knows who saw you go through that door?
There's a lot of emotions.
Oh,
I can sense that
she
part.
is overwhelmed. And she sort of shakingly she doesn't seem to have taken any sips from her own tea. Her hands are very shaky. And she goes, "No, not at all. I'm just a bit in over my head. I'm sorry. This is a lot to take in. There are certain works that we still have. Unfortunately, they have taken most of Ernest's work. They didn't burn it like the rest. They kept most of it.
Even they must realize its value.
Perhaps. It would be foolish to burn such a scholar's work.
Especially since he's not here anymore.
And essentially, they took almost all of it, but we managed to salvage 2 or 3 pieces of what you might be looking for. I do not know. I do not have the clearance to open that particular part. And you notice she's avoiding keywords of like saying specifically what and where it is, as if avoiding the concept of what it might be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the authority to be able to grant you what you are after. And even if I did, I do not know if it is what you are after. And I do not know if I could have given it to you in good faith. The last experiment you pulled had us witness a beast shred itself out of a man.
That one in particular, I did not do anything that wasn't in accordance with his own wishes. His existence was barely that of either or, not a beast, not a man.
Be that as it may.
I get your gist.
Have you drunk from the tea?
Sort of like let it be against my lips, but sort of pretending to.
Can you do me a medicine check?
Yes,
And we'll give this one a plus 20 due to your specialization.
Exactly, yes.
New dice doesn't get a second roll.
That's an 8. To the ones that do not know, I am actually cursed.
That's fine. We all are in different ways.
Nice. Decent rolls so far.
8 plus
20.
20.
So 25.
No, 28.
8.
Or 28. I can't do math. Jesus Christ, I'm tired. So you take the faintest amount of tea against your lip and take a taste in a way where you would be able to immediately sort of covertly spit it back into the tea.
Yeah.
As you notice that, as a seasoned doctor, you have come across a lot of things in your life, patching up people, especially in the scaffold.
The scaffold, yeah.
Because you never know what crawls out of the mana scar. A lot of dangerous creatures full of venoms or other sort of poisons tend to congregate sometimes. When the earth element seems to be at its zenith, earthen creatures kind of crawl out of the mana scar, and they tend to possess poisons of some kind, or venoms.
Oh, yes.
And this, to you, 2 options kind of come into play here. Either this is a muscle relaxant, or something that would put... it's either a muscle relaxant, which you quickly rule out because the other alternative seems more likely, and that is that this would have put you to sleep. It would have induced a state of increasing drowsiness until you have passed out and fallen asleep. And Shelia has expressly not touched her own tea this entire time. And you don't quite clock... You imagine it's because it might also carry the same poison in it. But she also does seem very shaken and distraught at the same time. As she sort of looks, side-eyeing the tea.
Well, I like what you've done with the place. Any new faces? Any old? How's dear old, you know who? Still faring well?
If Izzet knew that you had spoken to me, she would kill me.
Let me deal with that. And also, I can give you my address. You can send her right down to me. She can kill me instead.
You don't understand. She's not the same person she was when you were exiled.
What? An annoying little brat? Sorry.
An annoying little brat, eh?
When you left, something broke.
I think that might have been the point.
The last person who spoke up against her, Adrian, he still suffers waking nightmares. And then we haven't been able to wake him or dispel whatever curse she put him under. He's jinxed. We can't save him anymore.
I understand. It pains me to hear. Is there anything I can do aside from, well, throw myself off the nearest tower and disappear from your life?
It would be the best for everyone if you simply vanished. Stay in the scaffolding.
I will. This is my last venture. I need those books. I cannot proceed without them. He knew more than he let on. He knew more than he told me.
I can't help you.
Then who can?
Short of Idrin himself, Izzet herself probably could, but she wouldn't help you. She'd probably try to kill you on sight like she did with...
Like she did with...
a handful of other members of another tower.
I understand.
They pissed her off and they went missing.
Yeah. I see. Well then, I'm gonna sort of stand up still with my tea, pretend to peruse like the books, and I'm going to think hard. Is there anywhere that I could possibly imagine that they would store the things that I seek?
Considering your previous position of who you kind of took after, you tried to fill Ernest's shoes after he vanished.
It was his expressed wishes.
Yeah, he left that in his note before he went missing.
Yes.
Or in his letter, and the letter itself proved impervious to most sorts of damage, so people gave up on trying to subvert that, and you became the sort of next head. But there was a lot of things that weren't explained to you. There was a lot of things you had to figure out on your own over a few years. A handful of places come to mind, but if they had a thaumaturge that came up, there's not a whole lot of nooks and crannies that would have stayed hidden. Especially if one of them were able to sense the sympathetic links between things, the sympathetic bonds. There are a few places that come to mind. There is, in Ernest's office itself, there are a handful of walls that are the close, not quite anti-magical, but they are, what's the word I'm looking for? Inert. They don't conduct magical energy.
Like letting my hand, like sort of, like go past all of these, like the backs of the books. I stop at one, at random. I pull it out, places my teacup. Is there any houseplants around?
There are a few. They are very bonsai tree oriented.
Yeah.
Just
With,
there for looks.
with one hand, I'm just opening up the book.
Mm.
And while moving so that she can't see my tea, I sort of just flip it out a bit.
You hear the clattering of a few books. There are quite a few piles of books around here.
Hmm?
You hear the clattering of a few books somewhere. Sort of, she's to your like left back area.
Yeah.
But you hear this a little bit further to the right. Where do you look first?
My head tells me to look towards the new noise, but I can't help but glance over just to see if Sheila's still sitting there.
Okay. Two things are going to happen at once.
Well then.
Action time.
I need you to roll me a will saving throw.
Yes. All right.
Your wisdom.
New die. Come on.
We'll say plus 14 on this one as
Plus
well.
14. Come on. Oh no.
Oh.
So that's a whopping 18 because I rolled a 4.
So
Yes.
First by die.
this is the order in
Yep.
which these actions happen.
Best by a million.
You turn to look
Yes.
at Sheila, who is currently holding her hand like this. And although she does possess magical ability, she is a bard herself. She doesn't have any of her instruments nearby her, and you didn't see any of them on her.
No.
And they're not easy to hide, and you probably would have heard her trying to cast summon instrument. So she has no means of casting magic on her presently, but she has her hand as such. And just as you sort of whirl around and see her holding her wrist like this, because she's still sitting, sort of braced her arm, and her face is sort of twisted between guilt and terror as you feel like a sharp, sort of as you sort of half whirl around, there's a pain here. Not quite like a bolt, something much smaller, likely some sort of needle. As you feel your body immediately begin to weaken, and the clattering of books continues for a little bit until eventually a figure sort of like clambers out of a pile of them with the largest shitting green you have seen, which for this individual is every time they piss you off.
There's
As
a lot of
this-
shitty greens in
Oh,
this.
hello.
Yeah.
Of course.
Joining the tea party, are we?
And your world grows increasingly like you are losing it. The only thing keeping you still is that you have had incidents with substances by accident before.
And definitely purposefully.
Yeah. So this sort of stuff isn't entirely new to you. So you clock pretty much what that is immediately. That's poison. Probably not quite the same poison that was in your tea.
No, this one.
That's poison.
That's poison. As your whole world begins to waver and sort of darken around the edges quickly, you can hear your heartbeat thud really loudly in your head. And your throat grows very dry. But you see Izzet sort of kick over a stand of books in order to put one foot on like half of that pile. And go, and she had strum her, what's it called?
Lute.
Yeah, she had a lute that she had strummed. And a sort of, an immense pain radiates through your skull and sort of locks you up in place as she goes, well. Looks like I've caught a rat. So this sort of very pale skin, almost like pallid halfling with black hair tied back, like long black hair tied back. she seems to be fully kitted out in the goth look and leans fully into it as a jinxed halfling. And you feel the misfortune of just being where you were, timing everything slams into place as all of your bad luck is expended at once.
I'm going to hold the book. It's written by her. Somehow she decided to put it in the front at some point, and I used to mock her placements. Said that, that is definitely the place when everyone should see.
And
Massive ego. And I'm just gonna tear it.
Okay. So you tear it, and her smile, her grin sort of turns into a scowl. But
you never actually learned to source correctly.
Burn. Damn.
Shut up.
a vein almost pops in her head. But she then quickly smiles again when she hears when you hear the clattering of metal outside. And she goes, "You've got quite the price on your head nowadays. I couldn't care less for your jabs.
If only you knew what it's like to be wanted."
I don't need to know. I couldn't try harder.
I'm just gonna sit down, slump down, back against the bookshelf. I knew it was coming. And I'm sort of gonna look up at Sheila. Do you know any better place to be caught? Anything to add to the drama?
She's shakingly holding her wrist and just going and she mouths, "If only there was another way." And she glances at the back of Izzet with fear. As your world grows dark. And now, last but not least on our list.
Depends on if you mean height-wise or not.
In multiple ways, multiple facets. Last but not least, we finally get to a interesting and tense situation. Pedro, can you describe your character as you leap from one branch of the Elementorum's peak out to one of the sort of slated roofs of the lower Praesidium?
So there's this old, kind of olive-skinned halfling, very short, very stumpy. He looks like a he's like a geriatric old man from New York. He's got a disguise that's falling off. So there's a fake nose that is falling off the side, and he's got these fake blind sunglasses and a nightstick, and he's just jumping and oh god. All around him you see arrows being fired, and he's give me a second, oh Jesus.
More than arrows, as you are running,
Mm-hmm.
you had spent the night at a somewhat prolific tradesman's house. You ate his porridge, took one hell of a nap in his bed, and fucked off. Not without taking a handful of very prized possessions with you. And he caught you on your way out. Obviously, he couldn't stop you. Who's going to stop the Goldilocks robber?
I'm so small.
And you have been running for a bit now, and you're used to this chase. This is your day-to-day, well, maybe not day-to-day, but your average Tuesday chase. There are arrows thudding against, or rather clattering and shattering upon the slate roofs of the lower Praesidium. And you rush through sort of with the adrenaline of being chased. Like this is your time to shine, and you duck through. You leap. You sort of slide off a sort of slanted bit of the stone into the open window of a more middling area of the area where you roll through the window, sort of catch yourself onto your feet, and just as you do, your first warning that something is off is when the wood next to your head explodes with a sort of azure glow.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, God. Oh, gods. I mean, oh, suds.
We'll figure out how squares work later.
I've written an essay on this.
Who is this Jesus fellow?
It's my friend.
So you are currently bounding through a corridor of this sort of attic-like space of a building. In the more middling part, you were kind of like at the intersection of where the Praesidium ends and the Alimentarum also ended, and you had kind of like gone through that Venn diagram of them crossing sections into a more middling space, which becomes a bit more generic stone and wooden beams, and just your more typical
House.
house, yeah. And you roll through and catch yourself onto your feet, and something's wrong. Usually, you're in the lower. You're almost in the suds.
Mm-hmm.
Why would they use magic
To catch me.
to catch you specifically?
I think
Magic's expensive. This might be a magocracy, but magic is expensive.
mage
what is your
guards
f-
are.
Yeah, they usually police mages, not ordinary folk like you. What's your first reaction? What do you want to do?
So his first reaction is to quickly, he runs over to a wooden beam, knocks it 3 times, and goes, "They're not gonna catch me." Knocks it again, and then he looks for the closest window.
Mm.
And he is very small and very old.
Yeah.
But he's very well trained. He has a great conditioning.
Yeah.
So he's winded, but not tired.
Yeah.
So what he does is that he grabs a chair, swings it into the window, throws it,
Okay.
and then after starts climbing like a dog trying to get up on a sofa, but it's him on a regular windowsill. And it goes "Oh God, they got the fine stuff for me." And then he tries to look around for the mages. So he's kind of standing on the edge of the window, looking down.
Rogues.
Looking for.
Okay, let's go for a perception check due to your lower level than the rest, I'd say plus 11?
He's just an old man. That's a 17.
Okay, that's not just an old man. So your trained eyes glint a handful of things. You aren't versed in magic very well, but what you are versed in is expensive shit. And as you glance through the window behind you, where part of the sill had exploded,
Mhm.
you notice a band of a group sort of running along the various, well, more like floating. Some of them are straight up just fucking flying with magic. And one of them is running from rooftop to rooftop with a sort of unnatural movement. There's a very quickened pace to him, to that figure. And several of them hold, what catches your eye mostly though is the fact that several of them hold very expensive equipment, at least for your standards. There are ones of higher tier magic missile, which they haven't seemed to have unleashed upon you yet. Thankfully, you do carry something against that, because magic missile, come on.
Everyone does.
Everyone has magic missile. So it's a case of problem is this doesn't last long. So if they continuously fire it at you, you might actually begin taking hits. And you broke through a window and you kind of have 2 paths in front of you. I'll bake this into your perception check. As you sort of whirl around from, oh shit, that's bad. That's very bad. You notice that there are 2 paths. there is a sort of sloped roof that will take you further into the suds, or you can continue up a beam that will sort of divot further towards the center of the city, the heart, the lower heart of the city, where you could run. You could try to either juke them through basically weaving through buildings, or you could try to lose them in the suds.
So he's lived most of his life and made it out to like the suds, like the middle to low parts.
Yeah.
So, and he figures these people are rich.
Yeah.
They got fine shoes and everything.
Yeah.
And if you hold your head up high, you're gonna step in shit, and they don't like that shit. So I'm gonna go downstairs. So he basically just hops onto that sloped roof like a penguin, but like spread eagle like a penguin. Just like moving, spraddling all over the place, and then does like a somersault down, and then just takes off running. And he has to run with his whole body because he's small. So he takes off running like this. All the while on his way, whenever he sees anyone who looks remotely shoddy, he will give them the finger and like throw something at them, and be just to make sure that they
to get them to run away. Yeah, like
Yeah.
either they are going to be annoyed and get in the way. That's actually really clever. We'll do. Well, let's not. That won't be a check. That no. You rile up a few people as you go. You know how to piss these people off, and they become nuisances. However, one thing that immediately, as you do this though, and you sort of slide past and sort of you piss off one of them, about the fourth one maybe at this point, you hear a commotion behind you, and then eventually the man beside you, as you sort of like try to annoy him, he is struck through the chest with 3 projectiles of azure color. So there's just basically 3 flashes and the man drops. Thuds to the ground as you pass him. They don't seem to be holding any punches at all. Which is sort of immediately dawning the gravity of the situation upon you, where things are getting progressively worse and they are willing to kill people to get to you.
Yeah.
Several of the other people seem fine. They immediately ran basically the moment they saw expensive shit. And a lot of people just clear out as you begin this chase. And several more missiles try to hit you, but they curve off and hit the various like bits of stonery and finery, or not finery. This is the suds. There's no such thing as that. But several like wooden beams explode beside you. They're really trying to nail you, but you seem just out of reach for like any of their actual spells, because these wands have a further reach than average. You figure, because there's no way magic would have reached you otherwise. Because you're a good 200 feet maybe from them, if not more. And so they're using some kind of wand that seems to have an augmented reach. You figure.
I'm gonna try to look around because I get chased often, not by Mage Guard, but Hannegan, however, is used to seeing like a specific police officer or like law enforcer, who is on the case of him.
Yeah.
And he is looking around for this like tall, lanky old elf man.
You don't see him immediately, or rather, you don't see signs of him right now. You notice that it began with his men, because the arrows are very, typical his men. They use arrows because it's cheap as fuck.
They're from the media part.
Yeah, they're from media. Arrows are cheap, and they're usually enough to deal with ordinary folk.
Yeah.
But you especially notice that like most of them don't aim for any vitals. They aim for soft spots. They aim for anywhere that would incapacitate you. Like as horrible as it is, like the hamstring or the heel, stuff like that. Just anywhere that would incapacitate you rather than kill you.
Yeah, non-lethal arrow through your body.
Yeah, the usual. It would just knock the wind out of you so they could catch you type deal.
Trying to aim for somebody's heel, though, is kind of hard.
It is difficult. Yeah,
I mean,
Which might be why you're missing.
You aim for the butt and then it flies downwards.
Yeah,
that's
kind of hit the leg somewhere. Hope they don't die.
Imagine someone.
No one said that this police person's henchmen are good shots.
No.
Or good aimers. But
There is always the chance that you could have been
Yeah.
killed in this procedure, obviously. Like, death is a risk when you play with pointy shit.
Yeah.
But they were
want
never,
arrests.
they wanted you alive.
Yeah.
Sometimes if they could be bothered and or get the funds for it, they would use actual like walloping ammunition.
Yeah.
Designed to just knock you off your feet if they hit you, and not kill you. But the problem is that his men sort of quickly, like when you went through that window,
Mm-hmm.
there was like a shift of atmosphere almost. Like
Yeah.
someone immediately was like, "Fuck off, we're dealing with this."
Yeah.
But there are a few places where you would probably be able to find him if he was chasing you,
Mhm.
as sort of like your typical goals, so to speak. Like you reach that spot, he goes, I couldn't get you. I don't want
Yeah.
Dracula, but you get away this time, and then he walks away because he's out of ammunition or whatever.
Yeah.
Your usual song and dance with Serpico. And so you know that there's one destination close by that you could probably try.
So basically, in his mind,
Mm.
Hannegan says like, "We've had this thing going for years."
Yeah.
And Serpico, and he doesn't want it to end with him like splattered on the side of the street.
No.
So he immediately just jumps on some random asshole trying to run from the gun people, the magical gun people.
Yeah.
Jumps on that person's shoulder and is like, "Excuse me," and then he jumps up onto a roof.
Mm.
Just beelining for where Serpico normally goes, like, "I'll catch you next time," in order to get that, like, to have his showdown, because the both of them have had this like silent agreement that like it's one of us.
Yeah.
And he's like talking to himself because he's his only friend. He says, "If it's gonna be like this, you handsome bastard, I'm going to finish you off first." He's getting winded at this point because
Yeah.
these guys are fast. He
Yeah.
doesn't get to like stand and take
Like
lead.
your only advantage here is the fact that you are so like you know this place like the back of your hand by now, and so jumping from one spot to another is secondhand. These people have probably never been down here in their lives. Like maybe
Yeah.
once or twice chasing a rogue mage that from above that went down, but like this is rare.
Yeah.
And very uncomfortable and very dangerous. So you begin to rush through, and you try to find ways to minimize the amount of stamina you have to use to get to where you're going. We'll go with a acrobatics or athletics check of your choice. Which would you be naturally higher in?
That would be acrobatics because he has no strength.
As a rogue,
He's 75.
due to your level, we'll say 15.
Ooh. That's a natural one.
really setting the the bar here.
Okay. So, what happens is this. You begin to rush through the area. You knock over a few people. You're getting a bit panicked and a bit winded. Things are becoming harder and harder it's becoming harder to breathe. And they are gaining ground. And one of them reaches enough distance to be able to cast their actual spells at you.
Mm.
And I will make a attack roll. Okay. So as you run past the crowd, you're trying to not go through the crowds because you might get people killed.
Yeah.
And that just that never feels right. Especially, people who are already down on their luck. That's just shitting on them. Come on. So you rush through and you find your way down into a sort of the beam that you jump on explodes a few steps from your feet as a spell that would have otherwise probably have knocked you off your ass and off the beam drops or just hits the beam itself, and the beam then drops.
Mhm.
And it drops in a way where you don't really have anywhere to throw your hands to grab anywhere. There isn't really any hand ledges you could grab as you fall, and you slam against one half of a building. And as you're trying to clamber up to try and grab it, you continue to fall and you hit another sort of press like bit, and you fall further into the suds before eventually landing pretty hard on your not quite back. It's like you managed to stave the fall just enough where you can like catch it on the foot, tuck, and kind of roll it off. But that impact still hurt your shoulder.
Yeah.
You're actually winded now. Like the air got knocked out of you straight out from just giddy slamming onto the onto the ledge there.
Small man, long fall.
That will do it.
And you're sort of like, this moment gives you an opportunity, though. A really weird opportunity where it did instantaneously get you out of eyesight of these guards, but you were also in a very precarious situation right now where you are very hurt. There are two options. You can roll off the ledge that you're currently on, which you will be able to probably catch yourself on the next ledge if you can get some air in your lungs. Or you can get up and start running to try and begin clearing these leaps, which don't have a very high gap between them. These are pretty smushed together buildings. Rolling would get you closer to Serpico immediately.
Yeah.
But it carries the risk of not being able to fully anticipate how you would fare at the end of that.
He takes the fake nose and just throws it off.
I like how you had that all the way up until
It's very good glue. And he gets up on his knees, stretches and says, "All right, buddy, let's go again." And then he like throws himself like off the ledge with as much like force as he can to like, in his brain, go down faster. Not that that's how that works, but like.
Okay, so I'll need another athletics check at a plus 15.
Athletics or acrobatics?
Acrobatics, my bad.
Yeah.
Right.
Acrobatics.
Oh, that's 27.
27. You sort of like heave yourself off the ledge, and you take you finally manage to get that one spot. You like, you twist, and there's a pop. There's like a snap, and you're just like, bellissimo. As you just get a lung full of air, finally. Yeah. And you are in pain. Like, you hurt all over. But you manage to finally be able to figure out, okay, I'll roll off here. And at the moment your eyes sort of clock the like past the edge, you can see the various sort of cascade of beams across. Because we're getting into less building territory and more just straight up platforms and bridges. And you roll off, catch yourself on one, and then like kind of half leap to catch the other, sort of trying to kill your momentum as much as possible until you finally reach, you sort of like land, talk, and manage the roll at the last stage, which brings you to this sort of, the closest thing you can get to an open courtyard when you are beneath a shit ton of bridges.
Yeah.
But there's this open enclosure, the space where you are used to seeing Serpico. Serpico, this is like the last port of calling where he usually goes like, I don't have anything left and I can't get you myself. And
his jurisdiction ends here, kind of.
Pretty much. Like, he can't do much right here. And he plays the game. And you land, you're a bit winded, so you're probably limping a little bit, and you get to the center. And you look around and you see at the sort of, not where he would usually stand, because he usually stands right in the open, just waiting for you, basically, going like, well done, you've evaded capture once more. But you see him sort of, he stands a bit up on a ledge, like up on one of a slightly higher platform. And as you reach the center of this place, this little square, you don't hear them at first, and that's kind of what scares you, because you're pretty perceptive.
Yeah.
And you see the sort of cloaked, armored figures of like 3 or 4 sort of converge, and then another 2 converge, flying. They just glide through the air to sort of meet in this circular enclosure around you. And you watch as Serpico lifts his hand like this
Mm-hmm.
and puts his lips to his ring, and you hear in your head, "I'm sorry, Hannegan. I can't play our game no more."
Hannegan kind of like looks at him. There's this like he's old, and when like an old person is like finds that they have nothing left, kind of,
Yeah.
they have this certain look of just like, oh well. And he does that to Serpico and is like, I hope we see each other soon, cute boy. And then he looks at the other guys.
Yeah.
And goes, all right, you little shits, come get me.
God, I could be very mean right now and make this situation so much more grueling.
Do it.
You know what? Fuck your heartstrings. So you taunt the Mage's Guard, or what's left of this detachment, and they are at the bottom of the suds. They don't like being here, but they have orders. But you know, orders don't say anything about not kicking the shit out of, you know, the problem, not making sure they can't resist anymore.
No mid-manager oversight anymore.
Yeah.
There's no one to tell them they can't do what they're about to do. One of them turns around and flicks something towards Serpico. Serpico sort of wavers,
Mm-hmm.
and you hear him sort of drop slowly, like a dunk, dunk, dunk. And you hear, because he snores very loudly.
Like an
He's
old person snore.
Yeah. Like every gasp of air is like
Just
a battle.
alienated like the geriatric part of our viewers.
Lawyers, old people, we're getting through
Oh
this.
man.
Anyway, I'm going to yell that for that one. So you manage to, or rather he falls asleep, and the other 5 look at you as he's off dealing with Serpico. Because Serpico, this is to, you know this immediately, this is to shield his eyes so
Yeah.
he doesn't know what's about to happen. As they unleash a barrage of spells. None of them are lethal, thanks to a certain someone.
You're welcome.
But they hurt. And one of them crashes into your side, sends you reeling, another one across, and you are basically like a ping pong ball sent across the courtyard almost. Because you're a small person, you're a small guy, and it does not take much to lift you off the floor. And they effectively do this until you drop unconscious. And they're at such a different power level from you that there is not much you can do to stop them. Like, one of them misses occasionally, but you are overwhelmed. And you finally sort of like hit the ground entirely, and the just pass out from, well, getting your shit kicked in. And one of the guards, like before you fully pass out, sort of grab you by the head and pull you up and go, "That's what you get for bringing us to the suds," and slams your face into the ground before, well, that's the last thing you see is just kind of darkness. And that, my friends, is how 5 people, through a series of betrayals, trials, tribulations, and other sort of manifestations through their lives, have managed to be set on a path fraught of peril, dangers, unknown potential horrors that they have never faced before. As 5 people are cast down from Idrenados, 5 people are taking custody of various statures, of various origins, of various places of home. And they are sent to the Praesidium
The prison place.
And the Praesidium Arcantum is a cold and dark place. In fact, the only people who truly call it home are bankers, which should tell you a lot. Because it's the only place. That's another demographic.
Let me check that off the list.
Anyway.
You know who you are.
You know who you are.
And as the third one, or rather, as you guys, as the third demographic falls. I don't know where I was going with that one. So this shit's hard, man. You basically end up going through. You sort of you're not fully conscious, but you're not fully awake. Or I'm sorry, I'm tired. It's been a long day. You're not fully conscious, but you're not fully gone either. You sort of shift between the two in bouts of agony, poison leaving your system, sort of the residual effects of a magical beating. From I think several of you received a magical beating today, specifically magic from Drathus's enforcement, which is hilarious. And basically, what ends up happening is you are carted through a series of corridors, and you can't keep track of what's what. This place looks the same everywhere. You don't know if you're going forward. You don't know if you're going up. You don't know if you're going down. It's a maze. It is built to be an impenetrable fortress of absolute. It just sucks to attack. It sucks here. It's not a fun place.
Terrible place.
The
It's a
amount
terrible
of suck in this place is sky high.
It's like here, man. It goes past the stream's roof. It is awful. It is a long trek that seemingly maybe takes hours. You're not certain. And this is all at various stages through the day and night as you are carted in one by one. And you see other people being carted along. You see cages. And the further down you think you go, the more terrifying things become. The people that you sort of begin to see in sort of bouts of drowsiness. So you're not entirely certain if what you're seeing is nightmare, a manifestation of what just happened, or reality. As you pass through, through a doorway that sort of shimmers as you pass through it, as it's just a ward. And you go past a sort of a very brutish looking face where half of the lower jaw seems to be torn away. This red skin and a pair of incredibly gnarled horns festered with cracks and sort of bits of it missing, sort of curl back to the point where they pierce the head again in the back of his head.
Was this person or a statue or?
This is an individual.
Right.
That you are passing, and you see it sort of groggily in the corner of your eyes as you're carted through this sort of horrific, this horrible place, because more and more of these sort of figures that are similarly twisted sort of begin appearing, where you see more and more of them. The air begins to become heavy with the scent of blood and sulfur and brimstone. A horrendous sort of concoction of scents. You begin to hear screams occasionally that fade out, sort of as you sort of are carted through this place. And eventually you are set into a room one by one. And again, this all happens at different periods throughout the day. And this is where things might become a bit ouchy, as they effectively strip you of your belongings, and they are thrown into a cart of some kind. Your shit is gone, burned, whatever you had at the moment, no more. And what happens is the sort of you are grabbed by a meaty hand that is scaldingly hot to the touch as it yanks you back and a hot metal rod is pulled out of a fire with a sigil, and it is pressed into your skin. And you only get a brief few moments of intense pain as you feel your memories begin to break down. Your things that have become second nature to you seem to vanish from your memories. You become cloudy, heavy-headed. Your sort of the abilities that you felt that were innate to you, things that you could just do, are quickly degrading. Your mental state, just this intense brain fog, sets root into you deeply as you feel your energy sort of dissipate from you. You are mechanically de-leveled to level 1. Your abilities have been revoked as if you do not remember how to do them. You do not possess the strength or the body to be able to do that. Your physical stats are reduced as you go through ability score improvements. Your whole body feels heavy and tired. Not only because you got the shit kicked out of most of you, but because your entire skill set has just been revoked from you.
Rude.
And you are dumped into a cell where you have a brief moment to just kind of groggily try to stand up, fall, and pass out. And now what happens is a few hours pass, probably, maybe even several. You're not entirely sure. Time has always been a bit of a convoluted sense ever since the Sun Shatter event. So you eventually all wake up one by one, very groggily, very hazed. And you are in a cell. A cell of twisted metal where there are spikes every inch or so, barbed sort of fence almost, keeping you in a cage. And sort of as you hazily look up from the ground and sort of gaze your surroundings almost like absent-mindedly, you spot several other cages. They sort of line the walls. They're all built into the wall. And there are several above it as well. And there are, in the center of this larger room that you're in, there seems to be a hole of some kind. That almost seems a bit natural. It's like a stone pit, more akin to
Like a sinkhole.
kind of, yeah. Like it's not chiseled. It seems to just have been a hole that was there, and sort of milling about and running around and like shoving people forward and or shouting orders in a horrific tongue that almost burns your ears to hear it. And whips that crack at other sort of similarly twisted demonic creatures. Sort of ushers them to do their work more, where they lift a body and toss it into the pit. As there are a handful of piles of corpses.
Are the bodies limp, or are they moving as they toss them into the pit?
The bodies themselves that they're tossing like that, they're limp. There are piles of corpses. But you see that there's a cart that is being filled with people. Like there are people being prodded to get into these cages by a sort of like twisted demonic creature with spines all along his back that sort of like go up against the back of his skull, an array of like disgusting spikes that stick out of his own flesh. He rips one out and stabs one that's like continuously tries to defy him, kills it, and then throws that body onto another pile, and then points at another like person that was trying to get a knoll that didn't want to go in, and that sort of knoll immediately like backs off and goes into the cage. There are screams There's crying. Overall, Diablo dungeons aren't nice.
Saw it coming.
And
What are our condition in?
you are very groggy right now. But you feel like you could muster the bare minimum of what you used to be able to do. The core aspects of a lot of the things that you used to be able to do, you can still do. But you feel very weak. You feel very drowsy. But you are able to get up. And as you guys look around, you are not alone in this cage. There is a, now albeit quite messy, but blonde-haired individual in rags. There is a auburn, ginger-haired individual sort of trying to figure out what is wrong with her currently, trying to diagnose whatever the fuck is going on. There is someone who's trying to muster an authority that they've lost. You see an unfortunate halfling trying to stand up, but he's got some hella back pain. And the only person who's like currently up and probably just out of sheer willpower is a dwarf clinging to the barbed cage. Probably cut his hand a few times on the barbs, screaming profanities at in a very rough tongue that almost sounds like wood cracking and like stones being slammed together. It's such a weird sense, like tongue to try and decipher. Doesn't sound like anything anyone's really spoken.
Question. Is it Sylvan?
No.
It is not.
Can I get up? Do I have
Yes.
the strength to like stand on my own 2 feet?
You now are cinematic mode disengaged.
Intro
Now
cutscene has now finally been over.
Yeah, I'm sorry that it took literally 2/3 of the session, or 3/3 of the session rather, because there's only about about an hour left.
Don't worry, guys. It's going to take 20 minutes.
20 minutes each, no problem. Ironically, very good amount of stuff. In fact, this works out for the best.
Can I see the guards?
Yes, they are milling around. They're not human or humanoid though.
I'm going to grab their bars, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to grab two of the bars, and I'm going to just shout, "I want a trial as a noble
You
of
hear,
a fair city."
you hear a wheezing, like a sort of mixture of just exhausted sigh and laughter behind you at the word trial.
Meanwhile, I'm trying to kind of like get the attention of anybody outside the cage that seems to have some kind of control over something, you know, screaming my titles, saying like, "What of Drathis?"
Okay. So, what happens is this. One, as you are screaming, sorry, a headset has decided to attack my glasses and pop out of, there we go. Whatever. I'll simply live. I only got an hour to go. So, as you sort of, you begin to demand a trial, and you are sort of trying to figure out what happened to Drathis. You're shouting this man's name.
Get answers to whatever.
Yeah, you're like, what is happening? What is going on? And this isn't the only person, like people shouting these questions. You are in a sea of many, which truly sort of might help drive home how bad the situation is for some of you. However, as you are shouting, "I demand a fair trial," there are two heavy like footsteps that stomp outside of your cage. A pair of hoofed legs with scales rather than fur kind of go up, so it looks gross. Into a loinclothed individual of leather you probably don't want to know the origins of.
Fair.
And he is holding a sickle in one hand, and he's sort of like large, heavy-set but strong-looking individual of bluish skin, with one horn, because the other one had cracked, with one horn that sort of veers off this way, and the scar goes deep across his face here, which cuts out one of his eyes, just leaving an empty hole there. He squats down by you, because he is a good bit taller than you, and you're like up against the cage. He squats. He goes, "Oh, the little princeling wants a fair trial." And you hear several demons cackle. There is
Demons?
laughter. Demons. And you notice immediately, this one, as all of the other ones here, have a collar around their neck. Because demons are uncontrollable, usually. And you try to recall what you know about things, and then you knew quite a bit about this before. And now it is so hard to grasp. It's like trying to find that one word you were looking for. The more you try to look for it, the more your brain offers you other things. And it's just not clicking in place. If you want, you can roll an Arcana or Occultism check for me.
Wouldn't it be religion?
Religion could be applicable here too, but religious teachings are rather uncommon.
Yeah, that's true.
But you would still get quite a bit out of it if you happen to be good at it.
I want to check the halfling.
I'm not good at religion.
Yeah.
Arcana, 12.
If you want, you may aid. And if you're going to aid in a non-combat skill check, we do things a little different here.
Welcome to these
Take your
parts.
pick of Arcana, Occultism, or Religion to add to his roll.
All right.
So you rolled a 12.
I'm doing
rolled a
it.
12.
I'm doing it less out of the goodness of my heart and more to spite him.
Just trying to figure out, and also to figure out what the fuck is going on.
Let's see here. Was it
Would that be an aid check, or would you just try to knowledge? Try to knowledge?
Acknowledge you?
No, I'll show you exactly. We did talk about how I planned on ruling
Yeah.
these out of combat. You're gonna pool these.
Come on.
together. What did you roll?
It's a 7, because I apparently cannot roll over 8. Let's see. That's 14.
14. So
better.
14 plus 12. 14 plus 12 is a nice big old 26. 26 combined net you some information. You try to think and your mind is hazy, but there's a few dots you're connecting here and there, but you're not quite fully getting them together. But then Aida chimes in. You're thinking, demons aren't common. They're not good for tasks. They're stupid. And Aida goes, no, they're not stupid. They're
Uncontrollable.
uncontrollable. They're chaotic.
No one in their right mind would contract a demon.
Demons don't really do full-blown contracts.
Oh, exactly.
The only real way to control one is to enslave them, which is what you presume that the collars are for.
After the big demon speaks to Cassius,
Yeah.
I'm gonna kind of stop trying to draw attention to myself. This isn't gonna work. So I'm just gonna take a couple steps back, kind of check myself, make sure, kind of see what the damage is.
Actually, while you step back, Hannegan is gonna straighten himself and say "Well, we're on the topic of impossible things. Can I get a water, please? I'm nursing a terrible headache."
I was on my way towards the halfling.
Mhm.
As I was sort of just absentmindedly just speaking, why would anyone call upon a demon to do anything that is dangerous stuff? I go towards the halfling and just sort of, you're looking a bit rough. Do you need help?
I need a lot of things, but I think I'll be fine. Don't worry about it. You look rough yourself. You look like you've had 14 heartwood wines and a little pills on the side yourself.
Spread out over a few years, but yes. Let's see here. You don't have to be frightened. I'm a doctor.
Right now, you're not. Right now, you're wherever we are.
All right.
The demon at this point had gotten up and stalked away. Like he was there. He is laughing at you. Unless there's something you want to say to him directly.
Before he goes, Ibor has kind of stopped shouting profanities in Druidic.
Yeah.
And as he was leaning down and speaking, he kind of stopped and tried to get the scent of the demon that was.
Okay.
See if I can,
First off,
Ibor will remember this.
I need a fortitude save.
Right. Fair. Yeah.
Demons don't shower? Yo.
Some stinky feet.
Yeah, because of my beast skin, I'm able to get the scent as an imprecise sense.
Yeah, you have an improvised sense.
Yeah.
But there's a reason for it.
Fortitude, you say?
Yeah, fortitude.
Fortitude, that would be 20.
20. Okay, yeah. So you take a deep whiff of the air. Like, in order to pinpoint his scent, you have to smell everything around you.
Even the demon feet.
And
It's hooves.
he doesn't even have feet. Yeah, he has hooves. That's why it stinks so much. His would-be feet. Anyway, enough of that. This area reeks of a lot of things. Like, you're used to like a more earthen dirt, like filth type thing. Yeah, there's unwashed people, but like there's only so much. There's like people can only smell so bad in a natural sense, whereas this takes it to an extreme because not only is like sulfur very heavy in the air, so then just immediate rotten eggs, but there is your stomach lurches for a bit, but you manage to catch yourself and like steel yourself. Like you've eaten like a lot of really questionable things. You're probably fine. And you shake off whatever would have affected you. Take a deep sort of like, and you catch a very rich coppery rust smell from his blades. You catch the although it doesn't technically have a scent, you can kind of clock into it because of your nature. There is definitely a incredible hostile intent to this individual. If they could kill you right now, they would, but they cannot.
Right. The demon has hostile intent?
Wow.
Unheard of.
This is ruining my view of demons.
Yeah.
These guys are very rude.
We're going to lose that demographic as well.
Not even the demons want to watch our show.
It's like 90% of the Twitch fan base so far.
I mean, I sent this link to the stream to one of my mates, so one demon is watching at the very least.
Yep.
One of them will prime sub if you go apparently. So
I hate you all.
the feeling is mutual, don't worry. Basically, or rather, he stomps off, and that's all you can really catch from him. But you would be hard pressed to forget that scent of him. However, once he leaves, you have a brief moment of silence for yourselves. Sort of the calm before the storm you feel. How do you interact with each other? Is there any further...
Turning around.
Yeah, you go first.
Turning around, looking across all these people. Do I recognize anybody?
What immediately comes to your attention?
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna kind of like, after I've checked myself, I'm gonna like sit down in the corner and kind of just like take a second to kind of figure out like what's going on. And as I look around in the cage, I lock eyes with you.
Yeah.
And it takes a second before I kind of realize who you are in your state.
Yeah.
And I go,
I don't have my fineries on.
I go, Cassius,
Frey?
is that you?
Yes, obviously.
What in the hells have you done to end up down here?
Nothing.
Said the non-guilty man. I am innocent.
I ain't done nothing.
I was accused of demon summoning, which I'm not.
You're not demon summoning.
Well, someone is.
Do you recognize any of these demons? They might be
I'm not a demon summoner.
allegedly,
Yes.
allegedly not, or allegedly a.
You need to help me get out of here. You're still the Knight Captain, correct?
I've been trying to get their attention for a while. These demons, they're not the civilized type.
Are they civilized?
Why are you so calm about this?
Lady, I've been through a lot.
Don't disrespect your elders, young man. That's ma'am to you. What?
I'm just gonna leave that.
What did they do to him to make him deranged like he is?
Well, there were 5 guys and they all had wands, the blue wands, you know, the night mages wands, and they beat the shit out of me. I can't even count past 12 anymore.
I'm just gonna kind of take a couple seconds to look at you and then go, what are we?
Are you the Knight Captain?
You know, speaking of it, I feel like I've seen you somewhere.
No, you absolutely have not. You don't know me. No one here knows me. Didn't you invent those wands?
I worked on the spells. That meant that you were only beaten severely and not killed. Yes, indeed.
Gee, thanks. This is so much better than dying. At my ripe old age, I need to sit down.
The solutions of the rich are not always the best.
Right. The
I
dwarf.
could kill you where you stand right now if you prefer that.
Yes.
I kind of stand up and like stumble a little bit.
I doubt that, but yes.
I'm
please.
just sitting on the floor. And like, can we wait with the killing until after nap time?
The dwarf has not made any movement or any sounds, but to those who look at him, he is staring at the Knight Captain with sort of amused look to his face, but it doesn't really do anything beyond that. Just
Yeah. I'm gonna sit back again after stumbling. Kind of see that you're looking at me and say, "Enjoy it while you can, beast." I'm gonna kind of take a look around the cell. Like, what are we dealing with here?
So, your cell is, of course, of like some form of wrought iron. Maybe you're not too sure. A lot of it seems to be stone, like encrust, like edged almost, with like a half archway of this like sort of almost rust-like, sort of like. Have you ever seen like salt form, like through like droplets, where it like becomes like this weird bubbly shape? Or maybe like ice, maybe, where like if a drop hits something,
kind of
it
like
becomes
stalactites
ice.
or stalagmites.
Kind of, yeah. It's kind of like that texture of like stone, where it's like bumpy and coarse.
Okay.
And it, and of course, there's a lot of demons. However, as you're sort of looking around, do you have your back turned to the bars, or are you still? Were you doing this and then?
no, this time I'm kind of like. How is the cape? Is the cage like a circle?
It's
or
a
square?
It's a square where one side is bars and then there's stone and stone.
Oh, okay, right. So we're probably in a cell.
Yeah, you're like in the wall.
Gotcha.
This is like a wall cell.
In that case, I'm probably like by the corner between one of the some cells and the bars. So
Yeah.
kind of half turned away, looking into the room.
Okay,
I've set up camp where the stone means stone, really.
like one of the stone corners.
Yeah. Trying to sort of patch myself up because that was a nasty one.
Oh yeah.
She didn't use the small syringes.
So, as you guys had gotten a little bit of rest, the way this works is effectively you are, for a first level, you are at full health, and you are technically healthy. However, that is the mechanical side of things. However, you were recently of a much higher level with a much higher hit point pool, so you still feel the effects as if you have dropped that far. At least like in terms of how hurt you feel and how worn you are. I know I lean into mechanics a lot, but I think it's fun. Basically, as you guys sort of are camped and kind of like basking in like finally it's fucking quiet for just a moment. a ragged clad individual, like to the point where you can't see their anything but their eyes, which seem to be these shimmering glints of gold, because there are bandages that are like rolled very tightly around, so there's only like a slit of eye that you can see over some form of humanoid structure beneath, where there's like a cape rolled over an incredibly tattered robe, maybe even several of them just layered on top of each other. Some of them moth-eaten, some of them seem torn up or burnt. And he's just this incredibly raggedy individual who walks past your cage about halfway.
Did the eyes look like the demons?
No.
Okay. In that case, when I first spot them, I would like to shout out towards them.
Okay.
I'm Cassius Invidia, and the Knight Captain Frey is also here. We have been taken here against our wills and would like to speak with your superiors.
So this individual, right,
You asking for the manager?
Yeah.
on full Karen,
Karen
in a
energy for sure.
demonic prison. So you shout towards him, and he jumps a bit, or this individual jumps a bit, and hilariously enough, you caught them incredibly off guard because they were about to like trip into the cage, like onto the cage, to get your attention, and you just shout to him instead. So he's kind of like half torn, like what? And he just commits to the bit, trips over his foot. But there's like a slight delay to where it feels a little awkward in the air, where most of you clock, what was that? And he slams up against the bars. You notice that he does actually just grab the bars and doesn't seem to like barb through hand. It doesn't seem to do anything about that or like react to that much. But he puts his face real close to the bars. He goes, Cassius, the Frey.
Yes.
Indeed.
Years.
And 3 unnamed individuals.
My name is Hannegan, if you'd like to know.
2 unnamed individuals.
Not unnamed, no. Ibor.
At that, you see, I was kind of just, okay, you've taken stock of the situation, but at that, just full attention. Boom.
I know who you are, Hannegan. Dr. Solace. I know you all. You don't see the smile, by the way. I just can't help myself. I did that voice. There's no movement at all in the face. There's under the bandages nothing. It seems to be just a slate. The only thing you notice is that the sort of the points of the eye, the where the pupils would be are brighter than the rest of the golden eyes, so you can see where his attention shifts. But there's no obvious sign of movement much, which kind of reminds you of Eros, sort of. But this kind of lacks the weird shiftiness of that
Right.
person's face. And so they go, finally. Look. Fuck off, fly. Sorry, I'm being attacked by the flying thing with wings. How else would it fly?
It's nature.
It's nature. This individual leans into the bars and sort of goes, Yes, this is why I'm here. Finally. All right. I have a gift. And he looks real quick and sort of like tries to get up, and then he's going to very poorly feign like falling back against the cage as if he was trying to push himself up and failed, but he obviously just threw himself against the cage again. I'm gonna roll another thing real quick. Okay, yeah, no. Somehow the taskmaster just does not clock that at all. Somehow. Dice rolls. Anyway.
If you know who I am, then you obviously know that I've been taken here under false charges.
Oh, I know.
Great. Just tell whoever's in charge to talk to me, and we can sort this out.
Yeah, you might go for that big fellow over there. He looked awfully nice.
That won't work here. What will work, though, are these. And he sort of, in his like weird slumped position, because he's like really close to the ground now, like one hand on the bottom of the bars, one hand here.
Lower.
Because he like threw himself against the bar. He's like trying to get up. He's basically trying to put on an act as if he's like not intending to be here and failing miserably at it, but somehow the demons can't fucking see him. The Taskmaster's too busy like dealing with another problem.
And so he continues because he thinks he's working.
Yeah, exactly. So he goes,
Probably.
I can't tell you who they're from, but it is a mutual friend of ours. Well, for some of us. But no one's enemy, as far as I know. These. And he pulls out 5 sort of out of like some folds of his rags. He pulls out, and this is how you immediately know they're magical, because they're pristine. They're unwrinkled, they're perfectly fine, because his shit's dirty as hell. He goes, These, you need them. I am going to distract the guard while you all attach this to the inside of your rags.
Inside of a what?
Inside of your rags, your clothing.
I thought
Towards
you
the
said
left.
eyes. Jesus.
No.
Sucks.
I'm not that cruel. Our friend's not that cruel either. Look,
And who are you?
I cannot tell you yet. Trust me, the less you know, the better for now. But I can guarantee you one thing for certain. What I offer you now is a far cry better than what they do. And you watch as the overseer kicks a person off of the platform from the pit
What a lovely
into
chap.
the pit.
Yeah.
And he goes screaming until you keep hearing the scream for a while because it echoes off the hole until you hear a very loud thud, and then a like sort of weird scratching sounds that kind of echo up the pit.
I'm for some reason reminded of the number 300, but I'm not sure why.
How many copyright infringement things can you do in one?
Copyright lawyers, fifth of
I've
graphic.
been biting my
No,
tongue.
the lawyers have all tuned off. Now we can start.
Oh wait,
I have
exactly.
The
Lawyers.
TOS will obviously be okay with that.
I don't think that's how it works.
I don't think that's how that
No.
works either. Anyway, so he's kicked through the thing, and he goes, whatever this can do for you, which I cannot tell you due to circumstances. You never know who might be listening. Put this underneath your rags, and what it will help with is your situation. It will give you a chance where you would otherwise have had none.
Hannegan kind of like tumbles over and just snatches one out of his hand.
I cannot free you. Not directly. No one here can. Everyone in this room is going to die. Except for a handful of individuals that survive the fall, and those that I can give these. You will probably go through that pit. You will see hell. But you have a chance. Few others don't. Or few others do.
I'll take one out of his hand, and I say, and what makes it worthwhile for you to help souls like ours?
Because I hate everything above me. He points upwards, sort of indicating the city. Far more than any of you could understand.
Can I have a look at the paper he gave me? Like,
Yeah.
what's on it?
It is obviously arcane
Mm.
of nature, like straight up arcane.
Pristine, sure.
You can roll me an Arcana check, as that is the only check applicable for this certain thing.
Okay, yeah.
Or crafting if you happen to have it.
Is
I'll
it,
go
is it some
Arcana.
form of
Kinda.
like glyph or?
Kind of, yeah. It's a
It sort of looks like it.
It is a sort of slip of paper with runes embellished upon it in a specific pattern.
I'm gonna do a crafting check, not to see what it is, but how much it's worth,
Okay.
theoretically.
I'll do it.
I will not allow you to pool these checks because they're different.
Yeah,
They're two
23
completely
for
separate.
me.
Emily,
23.
bad luck.
Sorry.
7 plus 5.
It's
7
an
plus
it's an
5
AoE
is
effect
12.
from me.
So 23?
23. I rolled a natural 18.
I mean,
Amazing.
on one hand, it is worth quite a bit in the sense of like 50 gold is 50 gold, give or take. Like this would it looks pretty well crafted. It's got what looks like probably some kind of crushed gems acting as a sort of like medium in ink for the magic to flow through, like as a conduit. So it's like it maybe run like 50 gold anywhere from there.
Call that home insurance.
And you rolled a 12.
Yeah.
12. So you don't learn anything of immediate that like reveals exactly what this is.
Brilliant.
But you know of what type of item this is. This is a talisman, likely.
Right.
And this one seems to have a very different function, as in the sense that like it's normally it takes a little bit more to just affix a talisman to something, and they do very specific things. But this one seems to be a little bit more intricate in a weirdly specific way. But you can't quite put your finger on what it's supposed to do. There are runes that you look at, you recognize them, but you can't piece them together anymore. Those memories have been broken apart. You can't quite reforge those connections. You don't fully remember what these might be. But you know that it's not dangerous for you to have. It doesn't have any evocational effect that you can think of.
Okay.
At all. Who was the only one who...
I have not grabbed one.
You've not grabbed.
And I've not rolled for anything. No.
I'm going to walk up towards him.
Yeah.
And grab one and go like, is there nothing else that can be done?
I'm afraid not. You are at the bottom of the Praesidium Arcantum.
The Presidium?
The Praesidium. And that implication is exactly as bad as you think it is.
As Cassius is kind of shell-shocked or something like that, Ibor walks up,
Yeah?
takes it, and he says, we have no reason to trust you, but neither do we have any seeming way out of this, so
Looks
might
at the
as well
camera
take the
dramatically.
chance. I was
He's got
thinking,
it
I
sometimes.
think more like looking out to the offering forest, but
Do what you want.
For what it's worth, I'm sorry both of your falls had to be so far. Welcome to the bottom.
Why are you
I think-
being sorry? They probably deserve it just as much as we do. Oh, God, 40 years.
They told me something about faith in humanity and humanoidity.
I'm gonna kind of like take a second. Would I recognize her?
So here's a fun moment. How scholarly versus how martial was Frey?
Mostly martial, but not entirely.
If that's the case, can you give me either a society or arcana check?
I can go Arcana again, since that worked so well the other time.
Oh, shit.
18 plus 7.
18?
Plus 5.
18 plus 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that passes.
Plus 7.
Plus 7.
You sort of clock. Ida says things about non-humanity, fall, she's here. Not a whole lot of people on that list that you can think of. But there was a scholar a few years ago that earned the ire of Idrin himself. But it was the rare case of someone having done something extremely, against him, but was pardoned due to their skill.
I'm sorry, I'm illiterate. Ire is bad, right?
Yes.
My
ire is
mom's
bad.
just like in pain watching this at the moment.
Ire means anger.
That's perfect, yeah.
The anger of.
That's what I suspect.
Hi, Alex's mom.
Hi, Mom.
Hi.
Wait, like exoterice ire, like ire, like
Yeah.
gunfire. Yeah.
Ire means wrath. So. Butchered
Didn't see
Latin,
that, yeah.
everyone. Anyway, so so you kind of pull together some connections. You didn't personally handle that case because it wasn't handled by the Magus Guard directly. It was handled by the Magus Guard afterwards. First, it was the ordinary guards that took people into custody because there wasn't any like overt resistance. No one was flinging spells to stop themselves from being arrested. That's usually when the Magus Guard steps in. They're like, "Hey, magic, right? If you're not going to hold back, neither are we, bitches."
And then the monster appeared out of some guy's body. Or
No, that was a separate event, or rather, that's the event that led to.
separate.
Look, that was the event that led to her flying onto the radar of the guard,
Okay.
and from there they handled it, and then you know that it was Kiantar's detachment that was sent to obtain certain items from the Stelkadar collective. They were said to be holding some form of arcane contraband and needed to be taken into taken in for protection.
And the Stelkadar collective was
The weird library,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, the
the library, right?
the Dead Poets Society, basically.
Yep.
I guess.
It's another one. Doing great.
Art is derivative. Oh, my bad. Anyway, so basically this individual, after you all take a card, he goes, we don't have much time, but you aren't the first, you likely won't be the last. I don't currently have more on me. There are people down there that have survived this before. I know them personally. He looks around. I'm here to act as their hand, so to speak, in here. I can't tell you more, but I will distract the Taskmaster. You attach the talismans. They have to be, the silvery bluish back part has to be attached to the inside of the clothing. I will distract them. You do that and simply ride out the rest, okay?
I turned
Ride out the rest? What do you mean?
Don't resist what comes next.
Resist what? Speak in
Quiet down.
No.
I turned to the
Speak
door.
in clear terms.
They are going to throw you into the pit.
What?
Quiet.
What I have given you will save you from dying from that.
Literally like Grog. You in pit. This save you from pit.
He didn't break it down that meanly. But no, he puts it clear. It will save you. I can't tell you the details for security reasons, I guess, for my own sake.
Well, those demons do not seem to be paying much attention.
Can't we just sneak out of here?
To where? The rest of the Praesidium. Hey, you. How about we have a little hug? You and me.
I
So
have no
this
idea. what
individual
you mean
gets
by
up
that.
Yeah.
and says, I don't have much time.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Ada's just giving him a sympathetic look, like essentially like this bitch.
There's no expression, but like eyes. There's a connection there, and he feels equally sorry. He leaves and immediately trips over a bunch of crates that knock over a few other crates, and all hell breaks loose over there, quite literally. A bunch of demons start getting very antsy and pissed, start yelling at him. A few of them start actually like hitting him with not weapons, but like kicking him and beating him, and that basically distracts like everyone that could possibly look at you, because the overseer was about to like get up and like move towards you guys again, and then because he was about to make a round after having kicked that dude off the pit into the pit, and he basically ends up going back to deal with that and start like he just picks up a demon by the throat and like fucking breaks it and throws him to the side. Which the demon like stays limp for a while on the ground until eventually the neck like unsnaps and they slowly start moving again. But then they like collapse again and probably like pass out for a bit.
Like those bubble wrap toys that you can just pop.
The overseer, is that the blue skin one that
the
right.
blue skin one is the overseer. He seems to have like a host of chains that wrap around him, but like every other link that goes this way is embedded into the skin. As it goes around.
I'm going to go up to Cassius real quick and just put my hand on his shoulder and go, I remember a young boy who during sparring would preferably choose to talk his opponent out of fighting by dropping his sword. But the time for talking, Cassius, is over. There is nobody down here to hear their calls.
If we drop down, the chances of us coming back up to Idrenados are gone.
Do you have anything waiting for you?
Yes, I do.
Then why are you here?
Because I was accused.
It seems more like you were convicted. Can you help me put this in my underwear? It's the only part I know it'll stick. Oh, okay, buddy.
I'm surrounded by these fools.
I'm going to...
Hey, respect your elders, old young man.
If you're accused, it sounds more like that you do not have anything to go back to.
I wish to clear my name.
Okay,
And
buddy.
how exactly are you planning to do that? Oh, sorry, good old chaps. Seems to have been a bit of a mistake, and now I ended up in a pit, but luckily they let me out. Everything good, right? Do you need help putting that on, or can you do that yourself?
Fine.
Whether we go into that hole or stay up here, we are still in a hole. So
Wise
deep.
words. Wise words never spoken. But yeah,
What year 11 p.m. does to you?
Yeah.
4 hours. of
Have you
roleplay.
seen one of these papers before?
Ida
or
like
do you
pulls
need
out like her rags, I suppose.
This
Are they her own
paper
robes? Like
specifically.
what's
No.
left of them?
No,
No, it's just rags. All right.
Lost my
they
shoulder
were.
pads.
Everything
shoulder
was
pads.
burned.
And I'm gonna put it like in here. And while I'm doing that, can I see where they burned me? Is there a scarring?
Yes, there is.
There is.
You can only see like the crest of it though. Like
Yeah.
you see like a bit of it. It's really I personally physically can't look
Yeah.
that far, but
Yeah,
you
and
probably
then
can.
I turn my head like 180 degrees.
Yeah, you're a fucking bird.
As I'm a
For
bird.
you, it's a bit
Because you're
weird because they
bird.
had to like actually pluck an area of
Mm.
like feathers to be able to reach your skin. So you have like basically a bald spot on your shoulder blade.
No. Oh,
For
so
Frey.
mean.
Well, considering that the only rags I have, considering I didn't really have much clothes on me to begin with, I've just got pants at this point, so I'm just...
Like you went from like having like kind of shorts and basically just a Hawaiian fucking amount of like feather or like greenery on you, just
Yeah.
to you are covering the bare minimum right now with like a loincloth.
I was more
Bare naked
imagining
wolf.
like he's never been this dressed in his
Yeah,
entire life.
he still feels overdressed, to be honest.
Yeah.
You're not truly free in nature if your cheeks ain't out, you know?
Truly a
That's
Tristan
true.
saying for the
That is true.
ages.
There will be many quotes like this.
Great.
So basically, I say that a lot as well. I need to stop. but
Take a drink every time he says so, basically.
you would die.
You'll be dead.
The next session won't be nearly as cinematic as this one, but what happens next is that you are. I must ask. You know that you are outclassed, not matched here. If you were to pick a fight with a demon, that demon alone could probably kill you. Your instincts are screaming. There is always the option to fight them. Always. But you will probably not survive.
Much like it's always an option to eat lava.
Yeah.
Like you can do it, but like
But you're
like,
probably not
why?
going to survive.
probably not.
Now, the reason why I ask that is because you can choose to resist if you want, but eventually your time comes. Your gate is made by the Taskmaster simply moving bars apart. There was no door. He simply parted the bars in order to open it, enough for people to pass through.
I'm going to walk towards him.
He looks at you.
Like sort of just stumble, like get it over with,
Yeah.
trying to muster the most done, exhausted look.
He looks disappointed.
And just sort of just gesticulates. Like
Right. Gather up. Don't resist. We'll have to have some fun. He looks like he generally just wants to fucking kill you all right now, but he can't. So he motions towards another cage. Or more like a platform type thing.
Mhm.
It's like the word I'm looking for is cart. He motions towards a cart.
A platform thing, great.
Platform thing like a cage. Cart
That moves.
that moves. It's a cart. He motions towards a
Platform
cart that's large enough for people to stand on and like in, basically.
Mm.
And if you all clamber in, he begins to wheel it. Now, here's where something fun happens. I'm going to do a few checks for and something that doesn't quite change what happens to you in particular. But this will be hilarious.
Sounds
Okay.
terrible.
yeah, this will
That
be
went
fun.
exactly as I expected. Fantastic.
Oh great.
So, what happens is this.
Mm-hmm.
The ragged individual that you had met that had given you the items, he begins to move a larger cart. Slowly. He tries to sneak it as much as possible. The problem is he's not very good at sneaking at this point.
As we
This has
have
been
discovered.
established
Yep.
by now.
Mm-hmm.
He is not good at sneaking.
He tries, bless him.
He tries his best, bless his heart. He slowly begins pushing this cart, and your cart is being pushed towards the edge of this pit. And there was one other instance before where a cartload of people were simply dumped into the thing, though these people were trying to resist and trying to clamber out, and many of them were just shoved into the pit, because few people can just actually stand up against these beings down here. So what happens is this. In the span of a round, maybe a single round of combat, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Is there any chance that we can just make up a new plan? You know, not fall into the pit?
Are you saying this out loud?
Yes.
Well, if you have
I
any
just
ideas,
put-
I'm all ears.
I'm actually pretty good at falling on my feet, so not on my feet, but falling upright, so I'm fine. I'm ready. If you are.
So
Do you need someone to hold your hand?
No.
At this point, Ibor tries to use his shape-shifting abilities and
it does not work. Your body refuses to obey your abilities, and it looks like you are trying to defecate.
Hannegan was gonna put a hand on his shoulder, be like, "Are you okay?" But then he goes,
One way to deal with fear.
well,
I walk up to the.
I suppose that falling is all that we have left to do.
So,
That
what
sounds
happens
like
is this.
Barbosa.
It's ironic.
Dell begins to push a cart. And this cart stands a little bit out from the rest in the sense that, like, the moment it was pulled away from its surroundings, it looked off because there was other crates and stuff, like, hiding bits of this cart, because the cart that he's pushing isn't your cart, by the way. His cart is a different cart, it's a separate cart. And he has slowly been pushing it towards the edge of the pit. Now, what happens is that he accidentally hits a crate on the way, and that crate falls. The Taskmaster looks at him. Del panics. The ragged individual panics. And in his panic, he tries to, like, gesticulate that it's fine, he didn't do it, whatever. And this is as you guys are being brought towards the ledge. And after a while, you are then subsequently shunted off of the edge. The cart is lifted and you're dumped. And just as you begin to fall, a loud, blunt sort of like impact is heard up approximately where the Ragged Man was. That slams into something hard, then creaks and falls. And this pit is fairly large. So what happens is this. You 5 are falling. You may say that you are screaming or whatever reaction you
I started
have.
crying on the way to the pit. Like I've been trying to keep composure, but it's not working now.
I'm used to kind of flying around usually, so falling isn't too different experience to me.
Hannegan has the full-on like Goofy falling down from a building, like whoa!
Just the Wilhelm scream on the way down.
Yes.
Yep. Ibor is trying to use his old reflexes of bird flying, but he's mostly just kind of falling a semi-controlled manner.
Are you trying to?
No, just more like basically just kind of skydiver position, going down.
I will be trying to flap my wings, desperately trying to fly.
And you notice that your wings no longer have the strength to carry you. The wings that sprout from your back, although whole, they don't seem to be able to lift your weight anymore. And they don't seem to have the inherent strength and the sort of odd magic that was innate to you anymore to be able to allow you to fly. Because it wasn't fully just pure biology that allowed you to fly. There was a sort of supernatural tinge to that. As the people previous to your heritage were unable to fly. So you are sort of like a step in a weird direction of spiritual, a sort of ego version of your people. You all begin to fall rapidly. It doesn't take long to hit terminal velocity. And you are falling alongside. It falls a little bit slower than you due to the fact that it has more surface area, but it's the cart that the Ragged Man was pushing falls. He falls slightly before it, and eventually you guys fall for a while. There's like it's a good long, maybe a minute, and then all of a sudden you hit a point, and you feel like where you were like. It becomes lessen and lessen, and the resistance begins to like lessen and lessen and lessen and lessen, and you begin to slow. A very hot sensation comes from your, not like scalding, it doesn't hurt, but it's like it gets warm, like when your phone gets warm, but not exploding warm.
Yeah.
I don't know why that was my analogy, but it gets really, really warm.
The
talisman.
letter. Oh yeah, the
The branding.
Yeah. No, not the brand, the talisman.
Oh, the talisman, right.
So the talisman gets really hot, and you begin to slow. Your descent slows significantly.
Does
And
the cart hit us then?
no, you're here, and the cart is here, and like it's here, I guess. And then the ragged guy is like here. Now here's the problem: ragged guy does not have a talisman for himself.
Oh.
He only had the 5. This was not part of the plan.
You don't
So
say.
Can it?
your descents begin to slow, and there's not much control you have over it because it's a slow sort of like you lessen and lessen and lessen and lessen. This means that the Ragged Man and the cart go right past you.
As we fall, I realize I can't use my wings for flight, so I kind of use them to stabilize myself a bit.
Yeah.
See him try to get to him, but I can't quite make it.
Oh, it's like one of those unfortunate things where you're like you like reach your hand out and like the cart almost clips your fingers as you try to reach for him, as he just whoosh. because they're still going terminal velocity. You begin to slow down drastically, but not enough to like hit you with inertia or whiplash. It's a gradual slow percentile. Slow fall. Literally hit by slow fall. It's a slow fall talisman that activated at a particular threshold.
I feel like
What's
Hannegan
terminal velocity?
points at- I feel like
I
Hannegan
actually
points at him
want.
and goes,
If people want, they can roll a perception check.
Everyone?
Anyone who wants to.
Yeah.
It's fine.
I'm trying to see where he went.
24.
And I rolled a 5. Of course I did.
That one.
Not one.
17, baby.
You
I got
are not having a great time.
I guess Hannegan
9.
didn't like
10.
12.
12.
24. I feel like Hannegan didn't like lose a lot in terms of power.
No.
So he's more fine than the rest. He just goes like, bye-bye, funky
Yeah, you
man.
went from like level 4 to level 1.
Bugs
A lot of these
Bunny
people
lying
went
down
from
like
like
that,
a decent
falling.
level. You also didn't drop that far, but like you've never been that perceptive.
I have +8.
Fair enough. Yeah, you
What
just
did you
didn't roll
roll for?
good. So
Sorry, it's
you fall, Hannegan. You clock as you fall, or your fall slows. You look up. You see that there were like pitons slammed into the wall, and that had the same sort of rune around the engraving as your talisman. But the talisman eventually just crumbles into dust on you after a while, but you're still under the effect of the spell.
Oh.
No, pistons or what was it?
Pitons. It's like spikes that you slam.
Oh,
into
right.
stuff.
Yeah.
The reason why you clocked it probably is because that smelled like money. You missed. You were like, no.
However, he does point at the guy falling over like, bye-bye, funky man.
So you guys slow fall, and it takes about a few more, like maybe half a minute to reach, like 10 seconds or so. Before you like really get anywhere close to the bottom, you hear like a
No.
so you hear one impact, and then you hear another one. And you hit the floor. It's like a gradual slump. You're like 5 inches from the ground until you are just released from the spell. So you like go poof. And you are now on the bottom of the pits of sacrifice. And this is where we end today's session.
Bye-bye, kids at home. I hope you brush your
Can
teeth.
I pet the bird on the screen?
So, thank you so much for tuning in to MissedByOne. I've been your DM, Tristan Burdick. And sorry for the immense amount of cinematic stuff in this particular session, but there was a lot to go through. Next session will be a little bit more spicy.
Yes.
Tune in next time.
Yeah. Intro cinematic officially over.
Bye-bye.
Oh, we do.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Ooh.